In 5,
the jizz bomb.
4, 3. Gather around, freaks. Everybody off the bus and onto the boat. This year is coming to an end, and we have no time to slow down. So huddle around the internet radio and huddle around the internet campfire, because the guests have taken over, and it's time once again for Hey. Did you see this one? Hello, everybody. I'm joined by nobody. You guys got to start your cameras. Actually, you know what? I'm doing the show by myself this week.
Hi. I forgot. Usually you tell us, Jason, you six.
Oh, what's that? You ask? Oh, that's just my signal award. Thanks for asking.
Whoa.
Well, I haven't introduced you yet, but now I know how to introduce you. But hey, did you see this one? It is the time for that, the weekly roundtable review, reaction, discussion podcast where we take a movie, or sometimes two, like this week, and explain every detail, every minute detail until we've uncovered every rock and discovered everything that we can about the film. It is episode 164, and the month is the fan takeover, the great guest takeover, Cruise Control. And I'll tell you, the reason why it's called that is because of our guest this week. See, our guest here, Signal Award winner Michael Mongiardi. Thank you. Welcome back to the show. Thank you. Welcome back to the show. Thank you. And
yeah, I'm saying thank you in sign language because
thank you. Welcome back to the show.
He's back. He's back. He's better than ever.
Sorry. Thank you. Welcome. So there was this little inside joke we had on social media where I would post. It relates to the pre-show where I put up a part of the poster and ask everybody to guess what the movie for the week is. And every single week for probably about a year, you would post Speed 2 Cruise Control. So I thought, since we're doing a fan guest takeover situation, why don't you put your money where your fucking mouth is and come on and talk about this?
So aggressive.
Film.
Yeah, it was a really fun bit. I feel like Jason only did this so that it would stop the bit, but I will never stop.
I know you'll never stop. You literally posted it on your own poster for this very episode, which is like very meta. Yeah.
Unlike the Speed franchise, it will never end. It'll never end. It'll keep going.
It's true. But you Michael, you enter a unique sort of pantheon of Hey, did you see this one? This is now the second time that you have formed our month around you. If you remember, famously, you were like, I want to do Hackers, and then we did Hackers movies all around you wanting to do Hackers. And so you're in the 2 times club. And also on top of that, I think you've been on almost 5 times now. I think, is this your 5th? I don't know. You've been here a bunch. If not this one, when you're back in January, you're going to get that coveted playlist on YouTube that you can send all your friends.
You also built January around me too, right? It was Hot Guy Month.
Yeah. That's why you're doing the thing.
Because all your guests are hot guys.
Yeah. Especially your woman partner who's going to join you for that. But this is, of course, the podcast. It's also season 3. If you're playing at home, season 3, episode 15, so milestone there. I don't care. But thank you for coming back. Yep.
Chucky.
That sounds about right. Chucky hates me so much.
It is honestly a pleasure. Honestly, I've been like looking forward to this all day. I have so much fun. Always glad when you ask, and I'm always excited to do it. It's fun. So thank you for having me.
I appreciate you for that. I just want our guests. We do a long show, and if our guests come on here and have a bad time, it's like we're not going to get people coming back. So I'm glad that you have a good time. Thank you so much for the generous gift you've offered for my 5th for this being my 5th episode, and it's just. Honestly, it's too much money, and I almost don't want to accept it, but I'm going to. And thank you very much. That's true.
$10,000.
We make zero money from this show, but I do pay all of our guests $10,000 each.
I robbed several of my neighbors.
It's bankrupting me. Please
I'm
help.
wanted by the law.
Please buy merchandise off of our Redbubble. We get like $1 per t-shirt. I need 10,000 of you to buy to buy Twinkerbell shirts. Please.
I have an
please, I need
audio-based
10,000
OnlyFans where I just talk to people like, do you want to listen to more jizz music? Just message me here at jizzradio.com.
That's a
It's
reference
not,
to the
it's
pre-show.
not paying the bills or the bill that we now owe Michael Gigantor Mongiardi.
Gigantor, is that? Am I getting that reference right? Is that what he said?
That's the first one, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, hey, Gigantor.
Because he's a
My
big
name's
guy.
Clark.
But then everybody on the bus starts calling him Gigantor, which is a little bit like bullying rhetoric, you know, like a sort of like a schoolyard mentality where he called him Gigantor to get his attention, and then everybody on the bus starts calling him Gigantor, and he's like, shut the fuck up. I'm not Gigantor. My name's Oasis or something. I can't remember what his name was. It was
Ortiz.
Ortiz.
Ortiz, yeah. So speaking of plot elements for the first movie that we're going to kind of cover, so here's the plan. The movie we're covering tonight, the movie I took notes for, the movie I'll be reading through is Speed 2. However, we went ahead and watched Speed 1 to get a little bit of additional context on sort of the franchise. And I think that's going to help us a lot because the second movie, there's a lot of really long scenes of just like stuff happening. If there's not a lot of plot, Speed 1 has a lot of things to compare Speed 2 to.
There's a lot of running down cruise ship corridors in this movie and people just yelling stuff, and you're like, what does this have to do with anything that's happening? Nothing. They're just all saying stuff, and it doesn't really matter.
So Michael, you have been on the show, you have done the brief synopsis before, so what I'll say is hit us with just a little bit of what Speed is, and then give us basically the regular synopsis for Speed 2.
And by us,
all of it.
You mean Zardos?
Zardos, are you there?
Zardos speaks to you. He demands you synopsize this film. Tell him how, why, who, what occurs in this film.
Oh, Zardoz is scary. Okay, so I feel like I have to ask this question every time. What are we talking? Like one sentence or like?
How about one sentence for Speed and 3 sentences for Speed 2?
Why not 2 sentences for Speed 2?
Oh yeah, cruise control, buddy. Cruise control.
One sentence. Okay, got it. Okay, Speed. Bus go to the bus can't slow down.
Hey, but do a buzzer because that's the first time we made the bus that couldn't slow down Simpsons reference.
Bing. And Speed 2. This time, Bont can't slow down.
I think, like, honestly, that's really all you need for these movies. I think the general plot, though, between the two is like in the first one, you know, Sandra Bullock develops this relationship with Keanu Reeves that's continued with a different person in the second, and they continue where their relationship probably should have naturally progressed to, but it's just a different guy. And that's the subplot besides the bus can't or the train the cruise ship can't slow down. There's this thing we're doing later, and I just had some ideas.
Train at the end of Speed 1. You can't choose a train. Right. If you choose a train, Jason,
if you choose a train or a plane, which by the way, both movies already covered, it's too basic. You got to think outside the box.
Okay, well, just wait, just you wait. But that's the fucking plot of the movies. Terrorist gets on vehicle, can't go fast or slow. Thank you, and thank you, Zardos, wherever you are.
And
I'm right here, and he points to your heart with a glowing finger.
The second, I don't know the politics or the whatever the behind the scenes happened, but the second movie seems to clearly have been written with Keanu Reeves in mind, and then hastily switched to make it like a new guy that she just started dating. Or whatever.
Maybe they thought they had him all the way right up until they decided to start filming, and then he was like, no, I gotta go prepare for the Matrix. They need me to do kung fu, so I need to learn kung fu for 2 years.
Yeah, or 3 years. Yeah, okay. But with that, we can go on to our brief history.
A brief history.
So, as you know, the guest always goes first, and since we're in this unique situation, you can kind of round out your brief history for both movies. I think it's probably going to be pretty standard, straightforward stuff.
Great. So guest goes first, as always. Very comforting and and embracing of the guest to be thrown into the wolves.
Absolutely.
But I'm an
Welcome
expert.
to
I've been
hell.
here. I've been around the block. So I saw both movies in theaters as a young boy. I believe I saw Speed 2 I used to do this thing. Can we get real for a second? We used to, when we were just poor high school students, we would we found a door in the movie theater where you could pry it open with your finger, like the exit door to like in the theater. You know how there's usually a door where you can leave the
Goes
theater,
to the parking lot or whatever.
yeah. We found that one of those doors you could kind of pry open with your fingers. So we would just go to that door, pry it open, walk through a movie theater of people watching a movie, and then just walk out into the lobby, and then we could just watch whatever movie we wanted.
I worked at a
Speed 2
movie
like that.
theater, and because I worked there, I discovered one of those doors as well, and I proceeded to tell everybody I knew about it. I was like, if you ever want to just pry open that door, number 7 at the back, and you can just walk in, and you can probably just walk to whatever theater you want because you're already past the ticket rippers.
The backdoor movie hop.
Yeah,
They
so I
called
saw
me in high school.
Yeah,
Called you in high school, actually.
it was great. I saw so many movies that way, and I saw Speed 2 that way. And I will say the one little piece of history is I have never rewatched Speed 2 or interested in watching it, but I watched Speed 1 today, and this feels like a Mandela effect because Jeff Daniels is in that movie. How did I forget about that?
I thought it was Jeff Goldblum, and you just picture him like, all right, we gotta get rid of this bomb. Is that your brief history?
My brief history is I saw both movies in theaters, but I haven't seen them really since. But yeah, also I forgot Jeff Daniels was in it.
Mine's similar. These movies, I'm a little bit younger than you guys, not by like a huge margin, but enough that movies like this were considered scary to me. Like if anybody had a gun, or if a car went too fast, or if there was like tense music or situations, I would immediately be scared. So these types of movies like freaked me out without anything actually being freaky. I was like too scared to watch them. So these are the types of things my parents would rent, and I would come downstairs to be like, well, I don't want to go to bed yet. And then I'd see they'd be watching something like Speed, and I'd be like, never mind, too scary. This is too scary for me. And I would run upstairs. So my memory of Speed 1 was like, I was too scared to watch it. And it was that opening sequence, which is very intense. Like, I watched it yesterday. I'm like, this is pretty intense. And I can understand why a 6-year-old Steven would be scared of this. Like he's scared of a lot of stuff. He's going to be scared of the opening of Speed. But I didn't really ever fully rewatch either of these movies, like ever. Like I've definitely seen the first one, but I didn't memorize any of it, and I didn't remember any of it in a way that is like seminal or impressionary, where it like stayed in my mind. And I've definitely seen the second one. The only reason I know this is because when I started it, I was like, wait, isn't there like leeches in this movie or something weird? Like I remembered weird imagery, and I didn't remember the plot or like what he is or why he's there or what happens at the end. I didn't remember any of it. And like you said, I also didn't have any kind of real reason to go rewatch Speed 2 ever. But I definitely have seen bits and pieces of Speed 1 many, many, many times over years, where like either somebody puts it on when you're, like winding down after a night out or something, like let's put on Speed. And so I've seen like the first 15 minutes of Speed like a bunch of times, and then you fall out or you fall asleep. And like you remember stuff like the lady getting blown out of the bottom and getting run over and stuff, and you're like, trauma.
The lady getting blown out of the bottom.
The bottom of the bus, yeah.
White Fruit's babysitter / girlfriend.
Oh yeah.
Dive out and
when she's
like
blown
up, and
I was his babysitter, and then I was his lover. So yeah, both of them it was kind of like a joyous experience because watched the first one yesterday, and I know I've seen it, and I've always kind of been like, yeah, that's a good movie in my mind. Like, I know that that's a good movie, but watching it, I was like, this is actually kind of a great movie. Like, I appreciated it way more because we don't really get stuff like this anymore, where a big budget weirdo concept that is so high concept that, you know, is a major risk. We would like bleed for these types of movies now. Like, we would go into the theaters and like sacrifice a kitten to be like, just give us a Speed. Just give us a Speed, would you? Why the fuck don't we get Speeds anymore? But yeah, so I don't really have like a proper memory of either of them, but yeah, yesterday was really kind of eye-opening, where I'm like, you know, I should maybe go back and rewatch a lot of these 90s action dramas that just exist in my memory. You know, we did Anaconda, right? Were you on for Anaconda, Michael? Yeah. And like, that's another one, but like, you know, I have a little bit more of a nostalgic memory for that because I've rewatched it over the years because I love monster movies or whatever. But action movies, I don't have the same sort of like seminal reaction for, so I don't revisit them as much. And Speed, the first one, made me feel like, yeah, I should probably go back and watch these because they clearly have influence on stuff that is made now, things that are considered highbrow, and even like we were talking about the Metal Gear Solid score, which we'll get into, but like, you're like, oh yeah, Hideo Kojima definitely saw this movie and was like, I want the score of my game to sound like this. You're like, yeah, he definitely did, because it's just the same score. Anyway,
dun, 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 dun.
That's not as brief as I would have liked it to be, but Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, I so Speed 1 I saw many times. I didn't see either in theaters, but Speed 1 was definitely one of those sleepover movies we would rent all the time. I definitely watched it a bunch. There was a time when I would have remembered that Jeff Daniels was in it, although I probably wouldn't have known who he was, even though he was in Dumb and Dumber like the year before, or the next year, very, very close to this time. But what I mainly just remember from that is a bus going fast and doing that jump. Though all of those things are things that I remember about Speed 1. When it comes, and like I said, I watched it a bunch. When it comes to Speed 2, I always felt like I didn't need to see it because it looked dumb. And boy, howdy. But I saw little bits and pieces of it over the years. I think it was one of those showcase movies at one point in history, and I thought that this movie was about a speedboat that couldn't slow down, and it was the exact same thing, but a big, like a not a yacht, but not a small speedboat.
When you said this to me, I actually laughed out loud. When you said this out to me today, I laughed out loud because I was like, it's got what, 4 people on it, and it can't slow down, and they're on the ocean. They just go straight.
There's people on other speedboats that keep trying to come get it.
I also would, it would be a dishonest to your listeners if I didn't point out the fact that the word cruise is in the title of the movie.
Yeah.
But it is
there was a cruise ship.
It's a kind of a clever title. Cruise Control is a setting on a car.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, they really wanted franchise here. They really wanted to make a series of action movies all set on different modes of transportation, and like they were going for that hard.
I think by the end of this movie, I was convinced that they could have done it.
Me too.
Not with Alex, not even with Jack, but they need that guy, the guy who's in both movies. He needs to be the catalyst of the third movie. Like it needs to be him, like on a mountain or something, and he's going skiing, and he's like, "You telling me everybody here is strapped with bombs? I've never been snowboarding. This is my first time snowboarding, and the whole mountain has bombs on it." Like I would watch a movie with that guy because he's entertaining. Anyway, we'll get to that guy eventually.
Yeah. So, but other than that, I mean, the what I thought this movie was is almost better than what the movie is, because I looked up what 18 knots is, and it's like 30 kilometers an hour, which is like 20 miles an hour. So they're not going fast ever in this movie. I understand it's a big ship. Yeah.
The name Speed is like for something that was very clearly not speedy at all. It was going quite slow.
Yeah.
There's a weird lapse. Like this should be the third one. There should be an in-between mode of transport.
I don't think that the speed aspect is what they're trying to sell here. It's the fact that it's a giant locomotive. It's a
Right.
big, giant, powerful thing. Something that large at any speed is going to cause havoc if it's put into the right scenario. So
Especially if it's a cruise ship on cruise control.
Speed is the franchise. Cruise Control is the title, guys. They're out of control. The cruise is out of control. They need cruise control. That's what they're trying to do. Cruise Control is the actual title of the film.
I didn't put that together till you guys said it during that segment. Really, yeah. I'm a little bit dumb sometimes. It's cool.
No, that's fine, because I mean, if you didn't know it's on a cruise and then you all of a sudden see it's on a cruise, you've probably already forgotten that it's called Cruise Control. You're like, Speed 2 on a boat. It's a speedboat. Like, that's
I did do that. I was sorry, not when you guys were talking about it now, but when I watched the movie, I was like, oh. But yeah, that's my brief history. I saw Speed a lot. I saw Speed 2 yesterday and today. How about we talk about this director, though? He didn't do much, but he's also been attached to a lot of things.
All right. Quiet on set. Are we rolling? Okay, let's shoot this piece of shit. Sound. Speed. Action!
That's when they said the name of the movie in the podcast. So the director for this film, Jan Bont, he directed Speed, Twister, Speed 2 Cruise Control, The Haunting, and like the second or third Tomb Raider. Or is that the first Tomb Raider, The Cradle of Life?
Did he direct it, or are you looking at the...
I'm looking at director. These are what he directed. His cinematography credit, though, has a lot more stuff in it.
Yeah.
He also produced like Minority Report. You know, like he's been all over a lot of stuff.
He didn't direct Minority Report.
No, I said he produced it.
Oh, okay. Steven Spielberg directed Minority Report, a vastly better movie than this. But yeah, he's made movies. He's made what, 6 movies? Yeah, 6 movies.
Yeah, 3 bangers in a row. With 2 bangers and a third movie in a row.
Speed and Twister are both good. The Haunting, I like that movie, but like I get that it's bad. Like it's one of those movies while I'm watching it, I'm like, this is a bad movie, but I also like bad movies sometimes, and that's one of the ones that I like. It's so stupid. It's also based on a very good book. I don't know if you guys have ever read The Haunting, the book, but
no, I can't read.
Pretty good. And Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, The Cradle of Life, the second Lara Croft Tomb Raider movie, is also based on a very good book called, I don't know, Lara Croft, Tomb Raider 2, Cradle of Life, the book.
The video game, the book.
The video game, the book. I give him credit for doing The Haunting. Like, this is the thing. I don't know a lot of, like, you guys like Twister, I assume? That's another
I just watched it recently, and it holds up. It's great. The cover for Twister is so iconic to me.
It's scary.
Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt running through a field, and they're blurry, and then the Twister. I love that, and the movie gives you that feeling. I also watched Twisters. Man, it's fine. He didn't direct it.
I played Twister recently. That was an experience.
You played Twister as an adult? Did you throw your whole back out?
No, I stretched beforehand, so I did a good job.
Perfect. Was it sexy? People played Twister and like...
No, it's not sexy.
I've seen an internet video with Twister in it, and it was sexy.
I'm not sure what the gap in like Twister is, because there's like a point when you're a kid playing it and it's not sexy, and then there's a point where you're an adult where you're playing it and it's also not sexy.
If you're playing it at a frat house,
I assume there is some sort of sweet spot in there in between those two ages where it is sexy, but I've never played it during that time. I don't know where.
But then it gets sexy again if you're a swinger at a key party and you're a bunch of 50-year-olds playing Twister. Then you're all touching each other's parts.
Jason, you need to stop telling us about the insides and outsides of your life. I don't want to hear about it. You and your fish parties, putting your key.
Imagine going to key parties.
I mean, I would say out of his entire filmography of 6 films, Speed is probably his best one. Twister is good.
Yeah.
Speed 2 Control is a a competent movie that really suffers from. They forgot what was good about the first one, but you're like, but he directed the first one. It's not even like a whole new person took over and was like, this is why the first Speed was good, and I'm going to try and emulate that. No, it's the same guy. So it's like,
But listen to some other movies he's connected to as like a cinematographer and director of photography. Hunt for Red October, Die Hard, Flatliners, fucking Basic Instinct, Lethal Weapon 3. Lethal Weapon 3 is
that's
not my favorite Lethal Weapon, but
all
Tales from the Crypt.
All that does, Jason, is prove that there's a reason why these movies look good. Like
Look
they all
good,
look
yeah.
all of his movies look good. The Haunting looks good. Speed 2 looks good. Like it's not incompetently filmed.
Yeah,
And
it
there's
doesn't.
some
That
good.
scene when the cruise ship goes through the city, I was just like, honestly, how
They
did
just do that? Like,
How did they
you
do
just
that in
fucking crash it.
1994?
It feels
Crash a
like
cruise
a
ship?
Spielberg thing, right? Like it feels like they pulled off a Spielberg stunt. Like only Steven Spielberg himself could do something like this. But like this is just the Speed 2 director doing something that is, because you guys have seen The Lost World, right? Where the cruise, or not the cruise ship, but the tanker crashes into the docks at the end. It feels very similar, but this feels almost more grandiose than even that.
It's really funny you say that, because as I was watching it slowly crash into the seaside port, I was like, why does this movie remind me of The Lost World? That's interesting that
because it's
we had
literally the exact same thing that happens at the end of the world.
And then all the
I watched that
dinosaurs.
movie.
too.
And all the dinosaurs
That's
explode
why.
out of it. Well, that's pretty much John Bont. Thank you for making your movie. Thank you for your career. We'll probably never talk about you again unless we
It's
do
kind of,
Twister.
it's maybe maybe he stopped because he's like, this is too hard. Like I made a couple of good ones and people liked them, but like I get shit on now too hard and people yell at me, and I'd rather just be able to frame the image.
Or he
'Cause,
made a lifetime of money off Twister, because that was a huge movie.
Well, is he still working as a cinematographer today?
Oh yeah, he did. He executive produced some TV show in 2023.
I think that he probably is just like he probably just was like, I don't like directing, because directing is
I'll produce it.
Directing is draining as hell, man. Like it's like the whole thing is resting on your shoulders, and you're the boss, right? So if you're not up to it, then like I'll just be the cinematographer. That's fine.
Yeah, like just think about all the struggles that the director of The People versus Jesus Christ must have gone through.
Mm-hmm.
Also a reference to the pre-show. Go back and watch it if you can find it. If this is 20 years in the future, you might not be able to find this reference, but yes.
There's a reason they only made that one movie. It was a great movie, but they were like, no more, never again.
That's right.
Should we move on to the body?
The body of the episode.
Body of the episode.
Ho, 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 ho! Everybody back up, because here comes the body of the episode.
Let me set the scene for you, friendos. Annie's back. Sandra Bullock, they're like that America's sweetheart. She'll fucking be in anything in the 90s, I suppose. I bet that she loves this franchise and holds it dear
probably
to
got
her
paid
heart.
a lot
All of the money
to come back for this.
A rare situation where the woman
11 to
makes the most
13
money.
million. I read it.
Oh, really?
11 said 11 to 13, whatever that means.
How much did Jason Patric make?
I don't know. I think $1.50.
Yeah. He probably.
Do you know what's interesting about Jason Patric? He's literally in Terrifier 3. He's still in stuff to this day.
Yeah. Listen, I don't think that he's a bad actor, because I think that like he did a competent job. It's just that he was set up to fail from the beginning. You can't fill the shoes. You cannot fill the shoes of Jack from the first Speed. He's too good.
Oh yeah, and this is the case study in like there's a difference. There is a difference between chemistry and being and acting, because Keanu Reeves is also objectively a very bad actor.
He's terrible in Speed, like as an actor, and like the way he delivers his lines is bad. But he's still like, I'm Keanu Reeves, and you're like, awesome.
You can't not love him. You can't not. It's impossible. He's the best.
I almost said I disagree, but like I do agree, but I also disagree, because I fucking love him in that first movie so much. Like everything about what he's doing, and he has chemistry with everybody that he interacts.
That's what Michael's saying, right? Like that's kind of the difference. This fucking Jason Patric guy is like, they were like, let's get an actiony guy who kind of looks like Keanu Reeves, I guess. We just need an action man because this movie is more. It's less of a character study and more of a fucking just straight action movie on a slow moving cruise ship.
I mean, he just had zero chemistry with Sandra Bullock whatsoever, and Sandra Bullock is great always.
And it's
Right.
like she's trying to, like, she's acting. She's doing a good job of making me convinced that she's in love with this fucking boring schlubby weirdo. Like, I'm like, who is this guy? Why do you like him? I don't get it.
I feel like she played that character from The Net a lot in the 90s where she's like, I don't know, but then she gets put into these like crazy situations. And this
There is
like
a
another one
world
of those.
where they could have rewritten that character with that actor to potentially maybe have made them make more sense in terms of their interactions with each other, but it's like they just kept the script exactly the same as though it was Jack.
They
And
changed-
there's another ripple to my sorry. I didn't mean to.
I had like 2 more words to say.
Oh,
Expected
I
it to
thought you were
work.
really-
That's all it was
Okay.
going to be.
There's another ripple to my I thought this movie was a different thing. I thought she was brought back in an actiony role because she had been through the events of Speed and she had to help stop the situation. When they
Well,
opened this movie with her at a driving exam, I was like, wait a second. She's just going to be there again.
Yeah, I mean, she was like in the first movie, she was like very much the like kind of annoying, like, you know, sidekick kind of thing. And I was really hoping that, and I think that's what Speed 2 really could have used was to give her a little more agency and make her like a little more badass, especially
Yeah.
because she'd been through Speed 1.
So
So like,
much.
I wanted to see not that happen again of her just being like this bumbling, like scared
She
lady.
should have active PTSD the second
Yes.
shit
And-
starts to go down. And
and
in
flashbacks.
general.
Yeah.
But
Because
instead,
the timeline of this is months. It's not like years. It's been 2 months.
Well,
instead of
she's been dating this guy for 2 months, so I don't know exactly how long she was
Yeah.
dating Keanu Reeves.
She
for.
talks about her ex too in the movie, which is Keanu Reeves. My ex Jack, he was terrible at romance. He didn't know. He bought me pepper spray. I thought it was perfume, and I sprayed it all over
And I
myself
maced
and got
with it. Yeah.
into the emergency room. But like you said, Jason, she should have some sort of PTSD, because I was thinking the same thing. Like, she ran over a woman's head and like popped her head like a fucking watermelon. You know, like she would associate a stressful situation with the last such stressful
Was shutting
situation.
down. She should have shut down and be like, nope.
Well,
I'm
maybe
out.
not necessarily shut down, but like gone into like fight or flight and like had some sort of like, we need to do, because like some people will shut down and other people will go into like problem solving mode, and maybe that would be an interesting thing.
But she
But
does a little bit later in the movie.
but
A little bit when she's trying to get
instead,
the door open.
when a crisis is presenting itself, she goes into like jokey like, "Dun-dun-dun-dun. Okay, no, we have to keep, you were about to propose, now we have to keep dancing instead of paying attention to what's happening here, like let's make it funny." And I'm like, okay, so she's
I
gonna
mean,
the
yeah,
same
the
shit again. Yeah.
the dialogue was bad in both movies. Were they both written by this Jan de Bont guy?
Maybe. I mean, yeah, that's
The
at
dialogue
least
was
the
bad,
first
the
one
jokes
had
were bad.
some kind of like punny where it seemed like it was written by somebody who like has a loose understanding of the English language. Like, he lost his head. Like, you can picture like some Swedish guy being like, he lost his head. And then this one, it's like they try and do the same thing, but it's like, what? that doesn't make sense.
Speed
Like, remember
2
when the
was-
guy comes in and he's like, oh, I thought the sign said come in, but it said go out. And then he's like, let's not split hairs, and then hits him in the head with a golf club. I'm like, is that supposed to be like a pun? Like he's splitting his hairs with the golf?
Oh my
I don't-
god, I didn't even get that, but you're right. I think that was meant to be a joke.
I think it was set up like it was meant to be like a Schwarzenegger style pun, but it doesn't make any sense because you can't split a hair with a golf club.
So I'll
But-
give you some insight. Speed 1 was written by Graham Yost, one person. Speed 2 was written by Graham Yost, John DeBont, and Randall McCormick, some next guy. So they needed to have 3 people in the writers' room to put this thing together. The third guy wrote Titan A,
Ooh,
The
that's a good
Scorpion
movie.
King 2.
No, that's a bad movie.
And that's pretty much it. Blue Crush 2. They made a Blue Crush 2. They made a Scorpion King 3, which he also developed the story for. That's crazy.
That's just a porn
So-
parody, though.
It was a really good one though.
starring
Yeah.
Dwayne the Cock Coxon.
Penis.
Yeah.
Dwayne the cock penis. So this opening sequence, there's like it's a big action moment. It's not as good as the first movie with the whole sequence of the elevator stuff. That was awesome.
I will say the opening of Speed, the original, is like one of the best opening sequences to this type of action movie that I've seen in like so long. It gives you so much information with also not giving you any information at all. Like you know exactly who Keanu Reeves' character is just based on his weird interaction with Jeff Daniels. And you also understand who Jeff Daniels is, a character that like obviously he's there to elevate the plot and also have another character that you care about and eventually to die. But like he's there as a character that matters to you, and you care about him, and you care about both of them, and you care about the relationship together. That doesn't exist in Speed 2. Do you care about the guy doing the driving test? No. Do you care about the ice cream computer thief? No. Do you care about anything? The only thing you care about is the police chief from the first movie who shows up.
Right.
Like, God damn it! And you're like, hey, it's him. He's back.
With their whole squad of like, they're the band of merry men.
But also,
like
you only care about
like,
him because he's in the first movie and because he's in Terminator 2. And you're like, yeah,
Right.
this guy's good because he's in Terminator 2. That's why
I did have a moment where I was like, is this the same guy? Because that would have been fine too. Just recast Keanu Reeves and just play it like they're the same.
No.
I think they
No?
didn't want to. I think this is my theory. They were really going for a franchise, and they were hoping that they could wait this one movie out and then get him back for Speed 3. Yeah.
Where in Speed 3 they just do a bunch of speed, and it's like he's an undercover cop.
They wanted like the end of this movie to be like they're like, he really fucks up to the point that Sandra Bullock doesn't want to be with him anymore, and then like Keanu Reeves is on that island like, whoa, what the heck? And then he's there. Or it's a throuple, and then they learn to all live together in the third one. Speed 3.
Because rent is so high that they have to be a throuple.
Yeah, and then the third movie is like the bomber is like they have so many wives and husbands, and he's putting bombs inside of all the fake wives and husbands.
Can we talk about the bomber for a second? When they
Which
get
one?
on the cruise ship, Willem Dafoe. When they get on the cruise ship and they're like that goofy
Geiger.
With that goofy ass whatever guy like walking them through the ship and
Dante.
No, not Dante. The guy that was.
Jeremy Hotz, the Canadian comedian. I walked down the street the other day. And...
Oh, that's that guy. Oh yeah, he's always doing that.
Whoa, Jason, you have to all you have to do is go 45 more degrees in the direct. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Oh,
late night on the comedy network. He'd always be on fucking Just for Laughs. I remember.
So this guy's walking them through. It's this goofy ass scene. And then the most evil man in the world pops his head out of the door.
The Green Goblin pops out.
He looks evil. He just looks evil. He's got this long
I'm something
hair.
of a mad bomber myself.
His name is like Darkness Von Evil. It's just like
I am Geiger Counter.
I laughed out loud because it was like obviously this. I don't remember this movie at all, and obviously this is the villain. Like it couldn't be anything else.
But even the hero of the villain does the same thing, or the hero of the movie does the same thing, because he pops out and he's like, "Listen, I'm getting a little bit upset. Where are my golf clubs?" And he's like, "We found them, sir. They're down there. They'll be up here. I just gotta get these nice people to my cabin." And then like he walks away, and then new Keanu Reeves is like, just like constantly looking, like he does like not even like a double take, like a quadruple staring at you as you're walking down. Like he's like, something's up with this guy. Like,
he knew.
We
right
get
away.
it. The thing that bugs me about that is that we get it. He's evil. We get it. We don't need the character in the movie to also like triple take behind him. Like just move on, man.
Yeah, like we did. I think we did need that scene of him being like, "Oh, wait a minute, he's not watching the golf game," because for him to figure it out.
Fine.
Because because he figured it out. Like that's how he figured out where. I mean, where that it was this guy that did it and where the bombs were or whatever.
He doesn't actually care about golf because he's not watching the pro tour or whatever that's playing on the TV next to him. That's smart detective work. But I guess giving the movie credit, they haven't at any point given us the idea that this guy's a smart detective at all. We only know that he
Right.
knows how to ride a
Ride a
motorcycle.
motorcycle really fast.
Yeah.
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 Speed 4. This time it's on a motorcycle somehow. Did you guys notice when they introduced Dante, he says his name twice, and I was like, he's going to be a pivotal character in this movie because they don't usually say you're not introduced.
Who's
to a
Dante? Sorry, I don't even
The
remember.
guy
The
that was taking
photographer.
photos of everything throughout
at the
the
most
movie.
inopportune times, like the world is crumbling, and he's like, "Gotta get a picture."
Yeah.
Sandy Bullock is like, "Can you stop? We're dying."
Yeah. He wasn't even supposed to be there today.
I wasn't even supposed to be.
Um,
there. I get it. I understand that reference.
Yeah, but yeah,
Magic
that
school
was,
bus. Yeah.
yeah, that was so insane to me that this guy was just like this annoying archetype of like the photographer that is always taking photos despite the fact that like his life is in immediate danger.
In peril, yeah, and he's still
Yeah.
got to snap a couple.
I have a question for you guys. Our first
Mhm.
question. I wrote down some questions throughout this episode. I'm trying something new. Have you guys ever been on a cruise? Slash.
Okay, go ahead. Michael,
Okay.
you first.
You both have.
Oh, I was
No.
just saying yes, but I have been on a cruise and I'm gonna be going on one in February. And if you want a cruise story, do you remember there was in March 2020? If you remember that time,
I do.
Yeah.
I think
COVID's
something
on the
significant
rise.
about it.
Right,
Yeah.
right about when everybody started getting locked in their homes.
I was supposed to
Yeah.
go to fucking Japan the next month, and anyway.
Yeah, and my parents. So there was a cruise ship that was like off the coast of San Francisco, if you remember, and Donald Trump like didn't want to let it dock back in the country because he was like there was COVID on the ship, and he was like, "Oh, I like our numbers where they are," were his words.
Yeah. And he said,
Anyway, my parents were on that cruise ship.
oh,
and
crazy.
it was a complete nightmare, and they were quarantined in San Francisco. When they finally were able to dock, they were like just circling for for days, and then they finally were able to dock in San Francisco, and then Canada like sent a military cargo plane to like repatriate them back, and they had to quarantine in like a military base for 2 more weeks after that.
Did you learn the word repatriate through that whole ordeal? Because I've never heard that word before. If you knew
Oh,
it,
no.
you knew it, that's great. But that seems like one of those things you just learn from an experience.
Yeah, I think I knew it, but this
Okay.
really I never thought I'd have to actually use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like I should know it, but when you said it, I knew exactly what it meant.
I knew what you meant. It makes
so,
sense.
Like,
but
yeah, repatriate. You gotta take them from one area and put them back to their country.
put them back in their patriot place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a crazy thing, and my parents have since continue to go on cruises despite the fact that
What?
they were
Even
When
though
you're
they
a
went
cruise
through like
person,
a
you're a cruise
World
person.
War Z situation, they're like,
Yeah.
oh my god, we're gonna
Yeah, they
die
get-
out here. Yeah.
and because of all that trouble, the cruise line gave them like a free cruise or something.
Oh, like
And they were like,
$100
great.
$15.
As soon as COVID opens back up again, we're going on another cruise. And I was like, okay.
I like that the joke is either they got 1 free cruise or they got 100 free cruises, and like both are equally as funny because I'd really have no urge to go on a cruise. So like both, I'm like, yeah, those are both funny options.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Stephen. So I am going on a cruise with them in February. So hopefully COVID doesn't
Just in
happen
time for COVID 2 speed control or whatever.
again. Yeah.
Fuck botched it. COVID
Um,
2 Trump control.
But anyway, Stephen, sorry, I think I jumped in there. You were gonna say
He's
your cruise
dying.
story? Oh, he's passed away. Stephen,
I'll answer the
Yeah,
I'll
I was
answer
gonna say-
the question myself. I've never been on a cruise. I would go on a cruise, but Madison it specifically does not want to do the cruise thing. There's the AEW Jericho cruise that's been happening for the last 4 or 5 years now. I really want to go on a wrestling cruise. I think that'd be awesome to like
I'll go
watch
with you.
wrestling on a cruise ship. It usually happens in October. You want to do 2 cruises in 1 year in 2025?
Let's make it the year of cruises.
Yeah. But I would go on a cruise. I also like I like resorts. Madison's not really she'd rather be among the people, go see the sights. But I like to be a fat lazy slob on a disgusting fucking situation like a cruise ship or a resort. You know, like you don't have to think about anything when you're in those experiences. But
Jason
sadly, I
doesn't want to
probably
get
won't.
kidnapped. People want him for his sweet, sweet flesh.
Yeah, and my teeth filled with gold. My teeth of gold.
I
you
heard
see.
he's got golden teeth, that guy. Sorry, I coughed a lot just then. I'm still a little bit sick. I almost worked on a cruise ship, is what I was going to say.
Whoa.
And I went through a lot of the training and a lot of the preparatory work. And I realized that I could not do it because it was a Disney cruise. So you go around the world and like you have to like live on the boat forever, but you're also working, right? And the more I looked into it, the more I was like, I'm going to end up with like fucking 15 STDs and I'm going to come back and like be crazy. And I'm going to have this weird, like I looked at all the people that worked on it that I knew and they all seemed like they had lost their minds in like a weird way where like reality wasn't the same for them as it was for normal people. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. Am I going to come back a changed man, like a bloated mess of STDs and mental illnesses? Yeah.
You're going to see the room where they put the dead people and you're going to just be changed forever.
Yeah. And like the person that was really trying to get me into it, like I liked that person. So like I felt like I was following that person. But then I took a step back from it and I was like, do I want to do this? Yes, I can have like a weird experience where I go around the world on a Disney cruise ship. And like, because I worked at like a summer camp for many, many years. So I had all this like experience with like, working with children. So like I had like an in for that position, and plus the people that I knew worked there, so I could have got the job really easily. And then I went and I did all the training and I was like, this is too much and too weird. And I decided not to. I'm also terrified of the ocean. Like I actually am scared of it. Like
it's kind of
thalassophobia.
Yeah. It's kind of a bad job for you then, I would say.
Yeah. So I don't know if I don't even really know what the main reason is that I didn't do it, other than that all of it just felt bad. Like there was like a tiny sliver of me that was like, this will be great. And then the rest, like this huge amount, was like, don't fucking do it. So I followed the rest.
That's
but
great.
Yeah, I've never been on a cruise ship, but I almost worked on one, and I would have had to have worked on it for 6 fucking months.
I was also a cook for a decade, and in that world, it seemed like all the cooks were like, "I'm gonna get out of this shitty franchise job and go cook on a cruise ship up north." And I was like, "That sounds awful too. You want to go be on one of those ships that's just like plowing through ice? So these
up
rich
north,
idiots,
they're like,
these rich idiots can fucking go on a cruise up north." Anyway,
I did used to love the other action movie set on a cruise ship, Under Siege. Where Steven Seagal played a cook on a cruise ship.
Famously terrible cook in that movie. But beats a bunch of guys up with cooking instruments, which I think is hilarious.
And I think at the end of the last scene in that movie, I think I think I've only ever seen this happen in that movie, but he kills the main villain by stabbing him in the head with a knife. Just in the forehead.
I mean,
that's awesome.
I do love a good head stab, which happens at the beginning of the first Speed movie. Somebody gets stabbed in the ear with a screwdriver or whatever.
Yeah, you fucking.
Right. I mean, could they have knocked it out of the park any more with evil bad guys? There's like Dennis Hopper and then Willem Dafoe. Like
they're both very good. Yeah,
they're both Batman villains. They're both ground level Batman villains.
They're both just like career villains. That's like that's their careers. They play the bad guy in action movies.
Yeah,
we got the Mad Bomber, what bombs at midnight from The Tick in the first one, and the second one is literally like if the Green Goblin was also the Joker. Great character study on the villains in both movies. I will not take anything away from the.
I don't know if I agree with that, but
I think that they're both great
character studies. What the fuck is great about either of the character studies?
Dennis Hopper continues to tell you about why the world has done him wrong, and in the same breath just says some out-of-pocket insanity.
But you never actually learn anything about him.
I mean, I will tell you this. If there were no leeches in Speed 2, it's the exact same movie.
Yep.
It didn't add anything. Yeah.
Except that he's like,
I
designed this boat and I know a lot about computers. Like that's the only difference, except the other guy was clearly he knew a lot about computers as well because he could hook up cameras and shit in a time that like people weren't even thinking about that, right? What was the first one was 1994, I think, or was it
94 and 97 are the two dates.
So like the first one, you couldn't even really even try to introduce those concepts of like the internet and all that kind of stuff. It was impossible that at that time because it was all like boomery energy where it's like, no, these people just need to know that he's got a bomb on a bus and he can see them. That's all we need. That's all we can do. And that's all, nothing beyond that technology. And then in this one, he's like, I got a computer on my wrist and I'm controlling the doors. You're like, okay, yeah, we get it. Yeah, he's a
which is great. As a computer person, I fucking loved it. I was like, yeah, I wish I could control my whole office as the IT guy with a little thing on my wrist.
Well, you can with Alexa.
Yeah,
that's true. Alexa,
kill Spider-Man.
I did like. Thank you. I did like that they immediately hit us with the Weekend at Bernie's 2 soundtrack throughout this whole movie. It's just got this like Caribbean vibe. They chose this band that's like a reggae band that does covers of like various songs with 2 white guys as the singers. And I was saying to Steve in the pre-show, like this, they thought this was their big break. There's that cover.
No, Jason said to me, I bet you we could do this. And I was like, what? And he said, we could be 2 white reggae singers. And I was like, I don't know, Jason.
You have to do the patois though. I'm not touching that one. You got the better sound alike voice. You know, you're a better impersonationist.
I can definitely do a lot of racist impersonations if I try hard enough.
It does kind of fit the movie, but it is jarring considering the first movie literally had the Metal Gear 1 soundtrack.
Yeah, the best music in the first movie, like
dun 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 dun.
Like, whoa, what the heck?
But it was like dun 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 dun.
And all it is like it's like the camera just panning down a ladder forever, like dun 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 dun, just to show you how deep whatever it is that this guy is at is, you know, just to show you how low into the ground he is. And then the beginning of the second one is like Pirates of the Caribbean music, which I then realized later. I was like, oh, ironically, they're in the Caribbean and it is music that sounds like it could be in a Pirates of the Caribbean movie. But did they know that? Maybe not. I don't know, because the music at the beginning doesn't have any kind of instrumental hints that it's going to be set in the Caribbean. It's just the vibe, like the and he's like on a yeah, exactly. And I'm like, wait, what is going on? And this is before I realized they're going to go on the cruise in the Caribbean. And I'm like, what? They're going to the Caribbean? Is Jack Sparrow going to be like, excuse me?
If you watch the credits of the movie, throughout this movie, there is a sort of techno remix of the Metal Gear Solid theme. I don't know how prominent it was in the movie, but you know, in the end credits, they always play like the full scores and everything. And I sat there and I listened to it for a second. I'm like, oh, there was a punched up version of that Metal Gear style theme in this movie as well. It was just like most of the time it was just random Caribbean music playing, or like red wine. And that's not the song that's in the movie. There's some cover that's exists in like the zeitgeist of reality. Yeah. Like I think this band was an actual band that plays weddings, and their covers still exist. I want to talk about this first dinner scene a little bit. We get a who's who of various sitcom actors from different things. Like that the big guy with the mustache, this sort of smaller woman with the red hair, and then the woman with the kind of squirrely voice who shows up and comes on stage, and she's in the movie a little bit.
She's like the director, the cruise director or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get their names because, you know, why would I? But
her name's like Kathy or something. It's like written on her. She has like a badge on her chest. But you don't need to beat around the bush, Jason. This is like a weird dig at like the anti-fat rhetoric of the 90s. Like this
Yeah.
whole
True.
thing is like the people that they're sitting at the table with are in charge of like a Weight Watchers-esque club, like a Jenny Craig style club, where they're like, we're the fat fighters, and we believe that like fat is your friend, and if you eat fat, then you can gain it, and then you can lose it. And they're like, it's a combatant of fat is hiking or whatever. And you're just like, what is this? This is so odd.
The
But I guess,
5-minute
like,
long
that was-
fat joke for some reason.
And it
'cause it's
is like
1997.
it's a really long fat joke that continues throughout the entirety of the movie. There's like a point later on where he's like, no, there's no children down here. There's just large women. And
Large
they're all
women. She's like,
wondering,
hey, wait a second.
"What?" And he's like, regular sized women. And you're like, okay, this movie is just making fat jokes.
And
She
then-
pulls out a
not
frying
even-
pan and hits
not
him
even
with it. She
good.
may as well
Yeah,
have.
not even good fat jokes.
And what was that scene about where it was like everyone had to take off their clothes, and then she was like, I can't take off my clothes. I'm not wearing any underwear. And then
Well, that's the singer. That's the singer from this sequence, played by, I think, a pop star
Yeah, don't
from
you
the
know that
90s,
singers don't
Temuera.
wear clothes, Michael? That's the joke. Singers don't know how to wear underwear.
yeah, but
Tamia plays herself in several movies, including Kenan and Kel. That's a TV show. Beverly Hills 9, that's a TV show. So she was a TV show actor who was in 9 Things, where she literally just plays herself. That's insane.
Singer, right? So she's probably just advertising for herself, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Also-
the fat shamey stuff was very uncomfortable.
It was so
didn't hold
dated.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, sometimes that kind of stuff you can still get a chuckle out of it, but like there wasn't even a sympathetic one, where you're like, oh, like I see what they're doing. That's clever. Like there's nothing clever there. And you're like, okay, this is just kind of a symptomatic problem of the entirety of the movie, because a lot of the humor in this movie is like this, where it's like outdated. I was half expecting like a real gay character to show up, but like it's not even that egregious. It's more like just the ignorance of the time, because like almost every black character that shows up is like being a stereotypical black character of the time. Like even at the end, there's like a woman who's on the phone and she's like, what? I can't hear you. What? And then she sees the boat and she's like, whoa. And she's just like a big fat lady who like does like big fat lady things from the 90s. And you're like, oh God, this is a little bit too much.
So not only does our main character, Officer Alex Shaw, psychoanalyze everybody around him constantly, but we learn that he knows sign language when he's a sweet little girl doing sign language to her garbage.
I have an issue with
father,
this
her
as well,
Garbage
because-
parents. He sees her across the room, makes eye contact with her, nods to her, and starts signing to her, and then like that gave me the. Ugh. I don't know if that's the appropriate thing to do.
Okay, so before you
regardless.
get into that, because the this is just filmed poorly, because he's looking at a table and the shot is this like wide shot of a table and it's all old white people and one little girl. But the way they frame it, the little girl is like way off to the right and everybody's talking and like moving their arms around and stuff. And then it's like the one lady in the middle being like, whoop, 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 and she's doing sign language. But you don't, maybe this is just indicative of like the world that we live in now, where I'm like, I didn't even notice the sign language. I'm like, I don't even know what is he, and I was like, what is he looking at? What is he supposed to be looking at? And it's because the poor framing of this shot, like I was like, I cannot understand what he's looking at. I don't know what he's looking at. And they show it again and again, and I'm like, what is he looking at? Because he keeps being like, oh, and I'm like, what is he looking at? Please zoom in on something. I don't know what's going on. And then it takes like a full 3 more minutes for him to start to be like, and he's like, and he's doing sign language to her, and then it finally zooms in on the girl, and I'm like, oh, he's okay. I get it now.
I thought the whole reason they were going to set up a deaf character is so they could have a situation where nobody can talk, but while the big bad guy is like ranting and they do a little thing because she can see something.
Wait, Jason, are you saying that you thought of something smarter than
Speed 2 cruise control?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it just seemed like a complete missed opportunity, because I had the same thought. I was like, well, obviously this
Obviously
is
third act moment. Yeah.
Yeah, that something's going to happen here. And it didn't. It was just there to make you kind of, warm up.
She just gets
the
stuck in an
hero.
elevator and then in the walls of the fucking
Yeah.
of the cruise ship, and then we'll get to that.
I mean, if
I
this was made today, you know that there would be people just yelling woke. They'd be like, woke, deaf, ugh, God.
Also, the little girl, she was fine as an actor, but she had these weird head movements. When she realizes that she can like talk to this guy from across the room, she goes,
Well, I think she was actually a deaf person.
I assume she was actually deaf.
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that you can't have
Act
regular head
better,
movements.
Jason's just like, fuck your acting, you stupid.
That's
deaf
true.
bitch.
Okay, that was on me. So I also pulled a clip. I rarely do this, but this back and forth was so ridiculous to me. It makes no
it's gonna
sense.
be a montage of her trying to talk without sign language of Jason.
No. It's I just show her going. Meh. No, I'm not going to do that. I just watch this, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts on this moment.
So can I order a la carte?
I don't know if you're sitting in my section or not.
I requested this table.
Are you a good tipper?
Depends on the service.
Well, it's always a service with a smile for you.
How about at every meal?
You being serious right now?
Well,
well, a la carte doesn't mean what they think it means, I think. Is that what you're getting at?
You cut out the line right before that is I think what the whole conversation was about that was cut out there. What did he say right before that?
Well, the reason I cut it out is because he mentioned something to the effect of this conversation. I can't remember.
He says
then
the
when
F slur. He says, "What are you calling me, an F slur?" That's why Jason cut it out.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
But the reason why I thought it was like crazy is because she's talking about wanting to get boned down, and he's talking about proposing, but she's also talking about wanting to get proposed to, and he's also talking about boning her. This is the innuendo here was so layered and weird. I was fascinated by it.
I was just kind of like, doesn't a la carte mean like regular restaurant ordering where you order?
It's when you just order a burger without fries, basically, or just fries, or just a drink.
I think it just
you
means
don't order a meal.
You can order something individually, and it's not a set menu for the table. And then she's like, "It depends on where I'm sitting, I guess." And I'm like, "Wait, are you guys confusing a la carte with like table ordering where it's just brought out to you or whatever?"
And you know what's crazy too?
And then I got too bound up in like the French that I'm like, I don't fucking know what the
they throw directly to this sequence right after. That's that might be the longest. That was 16 seconds. That might be the longest 16 seconds committed to film, because I always think it's going to be a quick little funny dance sequence, and then it seems so long. Anyway, you're right.
I did not understand that they were talking about fucking and marriage. I thought they both were talking about marriage.
Okay, but he says, do you leave I always give the best tip. Anyway, that's how I interpreted it.
Did you think tip meant like the tip of a dick?
Yeah.
Oh, I think, Jason, maybe you misinterpreted that conversation, not me.
Possibly. I was trying something new here on the show. It's the end of the year, I'm thinking about incorporating more clips, I think that, that's my attempt.
Clips are great, but I don't know. I feel like maybe you misinterpreted that clip and not me, but you playing it made me think that I misinterpreted it. So now I'm sitting here being like, which one of us is right? Which one of us is wrong? I don't know. Do you?
I'm gonna get Spider-Man. We killed this
bombs, golf ball bombs. This time, Spider-Man.
But for some reason, seconds later, he just gets seasick. He's like, "Oh, I've got seasickness."
He was
Like,
faking
what?
it.
No, because I wanted to bring this up too. When they cut back to the room, they zoom in on puke in a bucket.
Yeah, I could have done without that.
I
So
thought
fucking gross.
I thought that he was faking it so hard that when they showed the puke, I was like, what? I actually went, what? I thought that he was like, I want to get you out of here so that I can maybe cool off and ask you to marry me in a romantic setting, but this room full of people who are like, did you know that fat only comes at you if you eat pancakes and waffles and butter? And you're like, oh god, this is not the best moment to ask you to marry me, so maybe I'll go back to the room. And then it turns out he's actually seasick.
I don't think there was a single second that would have been appropriate to ask somebody to marry them unless he took her up onto unless there was no mad bomb or what bombs at midnight.
I assume there's
asked her to marry him.
I assume there's no
under the
point
moonlight or something.
I assume there's no point on a cruise that is romantic enough for you to ask somebody to marry you on.
I would
probably
say.
always smell, like the smell of a porta potty, that weird smell that was meant to neutralize the smell of piss, but it only amplifies the smell of shit or whatever. I assume that a cruise ship always smells like that.
It's kind of like the sequence I showed. I've got the same sort of thought in my head about what you just said. We do get a shot of it's during all of this. It keeps cutting back to Willem Dafoe, just like stealing jewels. I'm stealing jewels, which is awesome. No, sorry, he isn't stealing jewels yet. Now he's just doing the havoc part. My bad. He pretends.
I
to
like
be
this
drunk.
part. This is when the movie I was like, this is cool. I like this. When
He stumbles into the captain's the bow or the captain's nest. Where the captain lives? Where do the captain lives?
The
Jason,
bridge.
I'll tell you what it's called.
The bridge, I think.
It's called the wheelhouse.
The wheelhouse. He stumbles into the bridge / wheelhouse and starts pressing buttons drunkenly, accidentally, and puts the transponder thing up against the up underneath the place where all the buttons are.
I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
Do you think that you could convince a room full of completely sober seamen that you are drunk, so drunk that you're stumbling around putting electronic
A
devices on things?
transponder and
Yeah,
turning up the
do you think you
speed
can
of
do
the,
that?
of
Do you,
the-
do you
of the
believe in
train.
your abilities to do something
No.
like that?
I could do
You'd
it.
have to be you think you could do
Oh,
it?
Yeah, I could do it. And you know what? I'll go do it right now.
When you go in February, let us know how it goes.
Yeah.
Let us steal the jewels on the ship, on the cruise ship, on the
I thought
Carnival
about it.
cruise.
I thought about it pretty hard. I even kind of practiced my drunk voice out loud, while I was watching it. I was like,
I'm something of a seaman myself.
"Hey, seaman, spleeman, or whatever." You just put one on it. Oh, I'm sorry. I just need to touch all your computers. Yeah, I don't know if I could do it.
I don't think I could do it.
I probably have to be really drunk to actually do it.
So I was all in on the movie at this point. I wrote a note that literally says, "There's no way Speed 2 is a more well thought out film and is better. Ha ha ha. This is actually pretty fun so far." My mood does sour at a certain point during the movie, but up to this point, I'm like, are they gonna wow me in a sequel?
I feel like
They don't.
I feel like Jason saw when he opened the face of the golf club and it was like a timer, and Jason was like, "Wait a minute, that's brilliant!"
No, you're not
Golf
wrong.
club bombs. Oh my
I'm kind of blown
god!
away by the ingenuity of the golf thing. When he's, like,
he
sticking
stuck all
these
his bombs on in his golf clubs. That's why he wants to know where they are. He needs to know.
Oh,
where
I
his
also
golf
wrote, "I'm something of a speed myself," and I also wrote, "I'm something of a mad bomber myself," because
Alright.
he is literally that character.
What about when
So-
he plugs all the cords into that thing that says fiber optic converter?
Just 90s tech jargon.
Well, I mean, I know I sighed a hard breath of relief and I said,
Yes.
"Thank God they labeled it," because I wouldn't have known what
Yeah.
that was if they didn't.
Also, the massive old school monitors right on the bridge felt a little weird. I don't know if like they would have technology on an old cruise ship like this. I guess he explains it away later where he's like, "Well, we developed these ships to be like cutting edge, bleeding edge
I think
technology."
that my joke was that I don't know what a fiber optic converter is. They wrote it on there to be like, "Get it?" I'm like, no.
Yeah, you see, because since he has this box, then now you know how he was converting all those fiber optics.
Right? So this ship has the internet in a primitive state.
My next note, Jason, I hope you'll be happy to know, is a la carte. They don't know what the definition is.
Yeah. It's when you leave a big tip.
It's when you leave a huge fucking tip. But then I wrote, he knows the codes because he's running through the ship. But I mean, you know, he designed the ship. Of course he knows the codes, but we don't really know that until later. All we know about him is that he's got bombs in his golf clubs and a jar of leeches that he talks to, being like, all right, gentlemen, time to sucky sucky. He puts them on his nipples or whatever.
So I was inspired at when we see him use, they telegraph the eels a little bit earlier, but now they show him
Actually putting them on, and he's like, I trust you more than I trust modern day medicine.
So I said, oh, he uses eels like a weird medieval doctor. I bet he's a flat earther.
They're leeches, not eels.
Or leeches, sorry, I misspoke. So this is the point of the episode. We kind of alluded to this, and I asked you guys earlier today. Let's talk about a third Speed movie. Now I'm going to say mine first because I've had it locked up. I asked you guys to spitball some. You guys are you vary from smart, funny, intelligent, improvisational guy to also the same for both of you. I would say you're both that.
Wait, what? You can't say that and then say we're both the same. Now it's like, who did you start with and who's the other one?
No, I was gonna say Steve with the ability to impersonate and Michael with the ability to improvise is what I was trying to go with there. But you're also smart and funny, so I wanted to just sort of give you both your flowers. Here's you guys said I couldn't use plane, but it is absolutely a plane. My Speed 3 is called Speed 3 Landing Gear. Okay, and what it's about is the villain is trying to disprove round Earth, and he's on a plane with a tech billionaire who is trying to jack up the price of a life-saving like insulin for his dying mother. And the thing is the movie comes out in 2002, so there's no class consciousness yet. So the right. United Healthcare guy is still portrayed as like a good person for the most part. So you can still have the evil of the guy trying to, you know, make this plane go so fast that it can't slow down. But also he's a crazy person who thinks I gotta kill this billionaire to have the insulin price go down. That's very closely related to a certain situation that's happened recently. That's kind of where my inspiration came from. But that's basically my Speed 3. It's like a jumbo jet, so there's lots of places to run around on, and the bomber is like, it's basically the same plot as the first Speed, where if this plane doesn't maintain a certain cruising speed, it'll explode. And he's a flat earther.
Terrible idea, but I like that he's a flat earther. That's a really good. That's a really
yeah,
good.
like
that's
that
the best part about it. Yeah, that's really good. Michael, do you want to go next or?
Sure. Okay. First, I talked about this with Mariana, and who was the fan favorite guest for the Barbarella episode.
Yeah,
she has the highest view count in like the history of the show. Just FYI.
Really?
Yes.
Maybe it's because she's so beautiful and smart. So we had some these are my rejected ideas. Okay. And hers. You know those old roller derbies where you had to
This is my idea too.
What?
Okay, keep going. Yeah.
Okay, well that was one. I won't go any further.
Oh no, what? Okay.
Because I'll let you sell your idea. The other one was roller coaster at a theme park.
All right, yeah.
And then the last one is not really a mode of transportation, but it was a game of Dance Revolution, and they have to, they can't stop dancing, otherwise the arcade will blow up. I guess.
As somebody who watched all the Hellraiser movies, Speed 7 is definitely that. Yeah.
If the pads stop getting hit in like a certain sequential or a speed of foot taps, the bomb arms and it gets more and more powerful. Like they're slowing down, they're gonna blow up. So, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. But those were all the ones we talked about. We kind of got into them. I love them all, but my final choice. Oh, Mariana is commenting, and I agree.
Yep.
The final choice I haven't even discussed with her because I thought of this myself just mere moments before starting the show. Speed 3 Tunnel Vision.
Whoa.
Okay. It's the year is 2034.
Okay. 10
Okay.
years in the future. Got it.
We're in President Elon Musk
Ugh.
running the nation, an
Mhm.
evil billionaire, now the leader of the free world, and has recently opened his Hyperloop, a vacuum tunnel that connects
Oh man.
Paris, France to Los Angeles. You can make that trip in 90 minutes. It's the year 2034. This is the 40th anniversary of the release of Speed, and Sandra Bullock as Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves as Keanu Reeves need to travel back to LA to get to the premiere of the 40th anniversary of Speed. And as they're on the Hyperloop on the way back to this premiere or this party celebrating the 40th anniversary, Jason Patric, who has been living in shame after this
Speed
movie.
2, yeah.
After Speed 2, after he's hated by everyone for not being Keanu enough. And he wasn't even invited to the Speed reunion. Can you imagine that? He's taken
Is
over
this
the
like
Hyperloop.
meta where
I can imagine that. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah,
playing
this is like a Wes Craven's new nightmare
Yeah.
of Keanu.
I
and
can see
Sandra
it. I
Bullock.
see all of it. And he's like pissed off, but is he the hero of this movie?
No, he's the villain. He's the deranged bad guy.
He
who's
took
been-
over Elon Musk's hypertrain.
Yeah, he took over the hypertrain because
Okay.
he's been so derised in public for his performance on that movie and for ruining the Speed franchise, and it ruined his career, and he's just holds a grudge. And he wasn't even invited to the party.
Does he have
Speed party.
bombs all over him?
Oh, there's bombs everywhere. There's bombs everywhere. There's bombs in the Hyperloop. It's crazy. And you know what? It's going to be one of the biggest movies of 2034. That's my prediction.
And Jason Patric keeps being like, I was in Terrifier 3, one of the biggest movies of 2024, 10 years ago.
And now I'm going to Terrifier you. Arms all his bombs.
Cuts his face off or whatever.
Wow, that's so much better than all the other ideas that I had. I have like 5, but I already gave out one, which was the character who is in both movies, the guy who gets his car taken by Keanu in the first one and his boat taken at the end of the second one. The third one would be that he's skiing in like, I don't know, like the Alps or something. Somewhere fancy, like a fancy ski resort.
Aspen.
And, yeah, like Aspen, and he's like, and then like someone's like, and he has like a like an Uzi to his head, and he's like, oh fuck, and it's just like a guy, and he's like, I've rigged this whole fucking mountain to explode, and he's like a pervert, like a mountain pervert or something, and he's like, man, this is the first time I've gone snowboarding, and you're telling me what? And he's like, the whole mountain's rigged to blow, and that's like how it opens, and like you go up from the mountain. It's called like Speed 3 Avalanche, and like it's that guy the whole time. He's gonna be part of it this time, instead of him being like the guy who shows up at the beginning or the end to just be the person who yields his vehicle. He has like a much huger part in this movie. He's the one we care about the most. And like maybe we have like multiple Keanu and Alex, like they show up together to try and stop this, and this guy, you know, like we can build it, we can make it better as we go. Not my best idea, but I do like the idea of the whole bomb being the whole mountain being rigged to blow so that like an avalanche will destroy like a whole town or something, you know, like that's where the bomb aspect comes in. Because I feel like it has to be about bombs, right? And it's always got to be about bombs. Yeah,
there's always bombs.
The roller derby idea was the very simple fact of his name is the Disco Detonator, and he's like dun, 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 and like, you know, it's a disco roller derby, and someone just they blow up, and like another one, everyone's like, what? And then someone like takes over the mic, and they're like, attention disco boys and girls, if you stop rollerblading you will die. Skate or die, says the disco detonator. And they have to continuously rollerblade. And if you slow down or if you run out of steam, you get dehydrated, you fall over, you blow up, and you might blow up like several people next to you. It's more of like a Saw thing. I get that feels more like a Saw thing, but I feel like it would work. And then the last, I have like a ton of other ones, but like the last one is, I don't know about you guys, but I think about the fact almost every day. I think about the fact that there are 2 astronauts that are trapped in space right now, and they have been trapped in space for months and months and months. And like
It's like June.
It's crazy. Like it freaks me out to think about the fact that they're just up there and they're like slowly dying because they can't put their meaty feet onto ground and walk. Like their bodies are probably like deteriorating. It's disgusting and scary. But mine was similar to, I didn't use an actual Elon Musk, but the idea was like a billionaire was like, he does billionaire terrorist style attack where he's like, the space station is rotating around the Earth, and if it ever accelerates to a certain speed, it will blow up. If it goes down below a certain speed, it'll blow up. And everyone's like, well, that's fine. But then everybody starts to notice that it's slowly like ding by like a couple of degrees every rotation, like ding, ding. And they're trying to figure out where it's going to land. And then they realize it's going to land on like Buckingham Palace or some shit, like blow up. Like it's all about like the trajectory of the space station, more so about like the explosion. Anyway, that was the last one I had.
Nice. I have one that I just came up with during all this, and it's a prequel that's set in the 1800s, and it is a train, and it's basically just the same plot as the first one, but it's kind of like that. It's kind of like Back to the Future. So that's Back to the Future Part 3. That's because
what do you mean?
They got a train that they got to get up to 88 miles an hour.
Oh, they have to make it go
to
faster.
maintain 88 miles per hour. That just popped in my head. It'd be funny to do a speed prequel set in the 1800s with a train. Well, thank you for all of that. That was a great. I think we covered every vehicle.
Can I add one thing to it? I just asked ChatGPT for some ideas, and here we go. Are you ready? A giant Ferris wheel.
Okay.
A runaway iceberg.
Okay.
A carnival parade float. Okay.
Okay.
A floating restaurant. I don't know what that means.
Oh, it's like one of those like sky restaurants. Like it spins, like the rotating ones that are in like a skyscraper or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, see,
CN
Marianne and I talked about a hot air balloon, but it just was like, it's just a small space, and it's like
2 people just looking at each other for 2 hours.
If you don't give up to my demands, I will kill 4 people. Everyone's like, okay, well, gotta try and save those 4 people.
But ChatGPT has suggested a hot air balloon convoy. So, like, I guess going between from balloon to balloon.
Well, because like hot air balloon convoys are usually like 40 hot air balloons. Have you ever seen one of them? Like cresting over a fucking hillside or something? It's impressive. And if there was some sort of connective tissue between all of them where they would all blow up, yeah, that would be a terrorist attack for sure. Yeah.
And I mean that would be definitely a spectacle to see, people jumping between. But the very last one that ChatGPT has suggested is truly bizarre. It says a giant cheese wheel, a massive runaway wheel of cheese, in brackets, perhaps part of an eccentric festival.
Yeah. Okay.
The cheese festival again.
That was pulled from the cheese wheel rolling downhill thing that they do in Europe, I think.
Okay, yeah, it says it's careening down a mountain towards a village.
Yeah.
It's been sabotaged to explode if it's slowed down, so the heroes must think fast while dodging cows, farmers, and cheese-loving fans.
That's the winner.
Wait, so there are cheese-loving fans, farmers, and cows that are trying to stop the heroes from stopping the cheese wheel to get to the bottom.
Yes.
Okay.
I can't wait for that new model that's like 1,000 times bigger than the current models that just like writes that whole movie and animates it, and it's perfect. I can't wait for that. Please don't do that. My very final one is James and the Giant Peach situation, but the peach is rigged to blow.
Okay. I'd get behind that.
She's rolling. It's a beautiful British tradition. Thank you, Mariana.
It's a beautiful British
Oh, it's a
tradition.
wonderful movie.
And back to our regularly scheduled program. Our boy Alex Shaw gets up in the morning and goes skeet shooting because he's too much of a, I don't know. He can't get it together to like.
He
ask her
can't
to
start
marry
his
him.
day unless he shoots a gun. That's
Yeah.
America.
But she wants, this is, and I quote, she wanted to get her ass blasted. So I'm glad I wrote that down. Committed that to.
Well, I mean,
paper.
she said that out loud, basically, I think, at one point.
Yeah. He's like, you have a beautiful, hot, naked woman.
And all you had to do was go shoot a gun, you sick, twisted pervert.
I want you to shoot your load right into my skeet. Nope, there's a better way to say that. I wanted you to skeet. No, okay. They
You have
fight
to
a little
say
bit.
skeet multiple times for it to make sense, Jason.
Yeah, and it's all. I think it's ski shooting also.
It's
They.
skate, I think.
It is skeet. Yeah, it's not.
I thought it was skeet. They rom-com style argue about the relationship. The bellhop guy enters Willem Dafoe's room and gets punched in the face because he's like, the thing was turned to do not enter. He was like, it was turned to
No, he gets
service?
clubbed. He gets
Or
golf
clubbed,
clubbed
yeah.
in the head. Yeah. This is the moment that I was talking about earlier where it seemed like it was meant to be a pun or like a Schwarzenegger style
Right.
being like, like I ordered a club sandwich and like clubs him in the head or something. Like, you could, that's obviously my first attempt. Not great, but like, better than him being like, let's not split hairs. Like it doesn't make any fucking sense at all. Do you guys have a better line? I don't know. I ordered
Then
a
hitting
club
him in the
sandwich.
clubs. Yeah, I heard the club sandwich is not bad. What if he just said, for
Yeah, that would probably be good too. Yeah.
That's actually a line from A Giant Cheese Wheel. Speed 5, A Giant Cheese Wheel. That's actually because the Scottish traditionally love golf, and the golf thing comes back. They like to bring back things in the second movie from the first, so that tracks. Apparently, he wants to use the bellhop to steal his gear so this is the dumb thing about this. He wants to steal his like his costume as a disguise, but most of the boat hands have seen Willem Dafoe already, so it's like that's not very well thought out. But the boat is off course and speeding up, I think. And then they have that weird little scene where he's like listening to them over the transponder, and he's like
this part made
predicting
me
what they're gonna say, but I
so
don't
confused.
like what. Why is this?
So
I thought Boba Fett, who is one of the guys on the bow, on the bridge, I thought he was like in on it because of this scene, but obviously he wasn't, or one of them was in on it or something.
It's a movie that shouldn't be ever confusing because it's so simple and stupid that if something ever confuses you, it's not your fault as the viewer. It's not that you're dumb, it's that the movie is doing a bad job of explaining what's going on. And like that moment where he's like he's saying what Boba Fett says before he says it. His name's Temuera Morrison, by the way, the actor. and he's saying everything that he's saying before, and I'm like, is he feeding him the lines to say? And like it makes you think that he's like telling him what to say. And then he predicts what the captain says, and I'm like, oh, he predicted what the captain said. But I didn't retroactively then remember that he had just also predicted everything that Temuera Morrison had said. I still thought that he had fed the lines to Temuera Morrison. So like the movie did a bad job because I'm not a stupid idiot movie watcher, but I still thought that Temuera Morrison was like on his side.
Yeah, they
that.
presented it that way. It's like there's a lot of stuff that happens in this movie like that, where they just like decide to make a choice, and you don't get confused like this, but it just they pivot a lot about like with what's happening in the movie.
That sequence
my theory about this though is because of the first movie having the very specific opening scene where you see these guys going in and helping out the people in the elevator. This movie wanted to have like multiple elevator moments in that same sort of context.
The issue that I have about that moment is that it is it's making you think something and then immediately making you not think it, and then then trying to make you think something else, and it's trying to make you do too many sort of like hoop jumps within like a 3-minute moment.
Right.
And you can't do that in a movie, especially a dumb movie, a movie that you're supposed to be like, I'm watching the movie and the movie's happening at me and I'll figure out what the movie's about. Like that kind of logical loop is not meant for this type of movie. And like, I don't know.
Well, in
I
the
don't know how you
same
guys-
breath, no, I agree with you, because it happens again like immediately, because in the same breath, after they have like a relationship fight about him not wanting to commit, there's this whole thing where he won't give her his badge number because he's like non-committal. He won't like dress up.
He
and go
doesn't
to
want
the
her to look
gala.
up all his crimes.
All his crimes that he did.
Yeah.
He shows up to, and he wouldn't like have morning sex with her or whatever dumb rom-com thing. He shows up at the door of their room wearing a tuxedo and chucks, and then he makes a dumb joke about they were out of size 10, and all I could think about was size 10 is like the most, like that's like the average shoe size, right? Like he should have said like 11 and a half or 12, which also is like a dick joke, but just to say size 10 is so bizarre to me. I thought that was really funny.
I mean, there's that, but there's also the like, okay, you're on a cruise ship. Where are you getting a
just a shoe
tuxedo?
store?
A tuxedo and shoes. Like, where would you go to get that? Like, your clothes are in your room. So I guess, but he is implying they were out of size 10. Like, who was the tuxedo shop in the on the cruise ship?
I don't feel as strongly about this moment as you guys, because they established the mall, that there's a mall there.
Yeah.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Okay, well then that explains it, I guess. I'm
Wait,
okay with that.
Well, they were at the mall and they looked the clothes and everything. So like I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Oh, then that's
There's just
fine. then.
another-
But
And also the
where-
fact that size 10 is the most common shoe size would make sense that they would be out of that, because it's the most common shoe size.
Okay.
I missed that completely. There was a scene at the beginning where they were like looking at clothes and stuff.
Yeah, there's
Well,
a
they're just,
scene
like,
where they go to the
walking,
mall, and it's the moment where they confront each other, and she basically tells him that she is like, well, maybe we shouldn't get married because you're too busy and I'm too busy, and it doesn't make sense for either of us. But he's got the ring in his pocket because he's ready to propose to her.
Yeah.
This is the moment that like made sense for me in the movie. The fact that you're telling me this doesn't, I'm like, this is the only part of this movie that made sense to me.
No, I'm on board. I'm back on Team Steven on this one.
Where
That's
like,
fair.
he puts the ring on his pinky, and like you can tell that he's like measured her finger based on his pinky. Like he's looked at her pinky versus his finger, and he's like, okay, so I should be able to get this size. Like he didn't ask her what the size was. He just measured his pinky to figure out how thick her finger was. He puts the ring on, he takes it off, they go out, they have their day, and then they go to the mall. And then she, because of the conversation they had the night before, tells him like, I don't know if we should do this. Like we shouldn't get married. Like clearly you're too busy, and like I'm doing my thing, and then he gets really sad, and I'm like, oh, Alex. Like as much as I hate Alex, I do feel a little bit sad for Alex, because he's clearly planned to ask her to marry him on this cruise. And then she says at the end of that conversation, don't you feel that we were severely underdressed last night? Because they were at the dinner and everybody was wearing tuxedos and dresses, and they were just wearing their sort of regular clothes. So he buys a tuxedo and he buys the dress that she's literally looking at during that conversation, because
The reason I brought it up though is because there was a size doesn't matter joke. That's why I was hung up on the size 10 thing. It was a dick joke. That was
because she
the
says that
punchline was
earlier.
wrong.
She says that earlier. He says that then, and then they make another third one later. Yeah, the size doesn't matter joke is that they didn't have dress shoes in the size, so he's wearing his chucks or whatever, right? And that's the joke is like I told them that size doesn't matter, but they still wouldn't sell them to me. So like it's like it's not a bad joke. That's an okay joke. I think it's a pretty good joke actually.
Well, how about this? The Green Goblin shows up and attacks the captain and throws him in the ocean.
Oh yeah, and he says size does matter, and he throws him overboard.
Oh yeah, that was a great use of a large lamp as a
Yeah.
weapon.
Yeah.
Because he keeps bashing him with it, and the guy's like, "What are you doing?"
But it's
Stop."
also like move backwards like 3 feet, and you won't be getting hit by that.
Yeah, it's
big
like
lamp anymore.
when your weapon is anchored to the wall,
Yeah,
it's not
move.
very threatening if you just move slightly.
And then the sitcom women are totally fooled by his disguise and think that he's the captain.
The thing about that
Shortly
scene,
after
that entire moment of like the lamp thing is that I feel like that could have been effective if the captain was like, looking out over the edge and he's just like, I fucking love being a captain. And he's like breathing in the air or something, and he's lost in thought. And then Willem Dafoe comes up and just like actually breaks his back with it or something. Like it's a huge thing that like, and he like, falls, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing over here? I'm the captain. You can't just break my spine like that. And then he throws him over. Like that would have been better than what happened, which is him just like overly smacking him in the chest with the arm, which
There was a wonky cut there too, where he was kind of hitting him in the chest, and then it just cut to like the wide shot outside the cruise ship, and there's a man falling down.
Yeah, well, he grabs him and he lifts him
I
up.
thought he was gonna like Suge Knight him, like just hang him over and be like, I'll drop you if you don't let me be a captain or whatever.
The way it's shot is it makes it seem like he's gonna hold them there for a minute and be like,
Yeah,
if you don't listen to me, I'm gonna make sure that all of fucking New York City hates Spider-Man. Like it made it seem like he was gonna hold him there for a minute, but he doesn't. He just lets him go, and then everything about the editing of that is so weird. And then the women coming around the corner being like, can you take a picture? We're gonna take the first ever selfie. And then when you look at the picture, you're like,
we also, the next thing, we're thrown right into like the weirdest, grossest moment of the whole movie, where the dad's yelling at the deaf girl. I think her name's like, and he's like, you can't dress like that, you look like a clown. And the mom's like, oh, it's fine. And then from Alex's point of view, he like looks her up and down, which I was like, what? Why did they decide to put that in? I guess it's supposed to just show her unconventional dress, but the way that the camera does like one of these was just it was too much.
It's not just to show her unconventional dress. She's 14 years old, and it's supposed to be like a weird thing. Her dad is not calling her a clown. Her dad's calling her a whore. Like that's what's going on, and it's fucking.
She was dressed
gross.
perfectly normal. She just had like a colorful
She's
dress.
just wearing a dress,
bowling shoes on.
But it's gross. It's very gross and weird, and then the movie only makes it grosser too as the movie goes on.
It's true. Like, we'll get to that in a moment. I just wrote down a line that Anna says. I thought her name was Sandy for 2 movies up to this point also, so her name is Sandy in my notes.
Well, that is her real name. Maybe that's why you were confused.
Annie is of course short for Sandra.
No, I mean Sandra Bullock.
Right. Oh, I'm an idiot is what we're realizing. But she says this almost feels too perfect, doesn't it? While literal chaos is happening on the bridge, and I think this is the moment where he's about to propose, and Steve touched on it earlier, but I thought it was so dumb that he's about to propose, and then oh my god, there's an earthquake, and it's like, how's there an earthquake? We're in the ocean. But then as things are turning into chaos and they're dancing, and Alex is like, okay, I gotta go see what's going on. She's like, no, stay here, just say the next thing you were gonna say. It's like, do you really want to be proposed under this circumstance? There's a line in the first movie, there's a line at the end of this, or during another creepy scene, where it's like relationships that are formed in intense situations never work out. It's like, do you want to be proposed to while the boat is on fire or being blown up?
I think it would be better than any other point on the cruise.
Well, not to mention that they've been dating for 2 months and they have zero visible chemistry. Uh, it was like anytime they would talk like that, I'd be like, why? You love him?
Annie
It's
has
not-
all of the chemistry in the whole relationship, while he's just like, I don't care what you're saying to me, woman.
I think I was also still very upset about the dad red flag stuff going on.
Yeah, that was uncomfortable and like completely unnecessary.
Yeah. This is when I was talking earlier about how you could remove an entire storyline from the movie and it really would have no effect on the movie. It's this. It's this little girl who's deaf. All it is there to do is to make it for the audience a realization that this guy wants to have kids, I guess, and that she also wants to have
good
kids.
with kids.
Yeah, that's the only reason it exists, and you can do that through a 4-year-old that has good chemistry with him, like going like.
Instead, they make it super weird.
But instead, it's like a weird 14-year-old deaf girl who's like, "I want to fuck you," and he's like,
no, I can't fuck you. I'm 40 or whatever.
You're
You're
making me
like,
hit
ugh.
puberty with the speed of 1,000 speed buses.
I will say, so before the movie made it weird and started making it like, is that your sister and all this stuff? Before that happened, and he was just like doing sign language across the room with the young girl, and they were like had that moment. Were you already creeped out? In that moment, I was like, oh, that's kind of cute. This is actually
No, I was confused because of the poor filming of the.
Oh
angle.
yeah,
Like,
you were stuck on that.
I couldn't
Yeah,
figure out what they were trying to show me.
I didn't clock that, but I don't have the keen eye that you do on cinematography.
I don't think adult men should be like, even he recognizes that she's speaking sign language and he speaks sign language. I thought it was like a weird.
I think
thing
there's
to do.
absolutely a way to do what they were trying to do in this movie without making it.
If they're standing next to each other and he realizes in a moment of like extreme stress that helps them move the plot forward or helps a situation that's happening, sure, but that sets up a series of events that makes her character feel very bizarre.
3 ways to do it that are not this. 1, make her 8, because an 8-year-old is just like an amorphous blob that can be like ming, 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 and then he's just saving an 8-year-old. 2, not have the dad call her a whore. That moment alone changes the entirety of the character and what her character is, because then she runs off because of that, right? Like her whole thing is like, I'm gonna run away because my dad's being a fucking weird pervert, and you're like, what the heck is going on? Why is this dad being such a perv? And then another one is make it just like a deaf person. Could be like an old man, could be an old lady, could be anyone, doesn't have to be a child.
And an old person is good idea.
Yeah.
But I mean, what the biggest injustice was, like, I think in the writing, it was like having her be like trying to fuck him. That was like, and like saying that she loves him and talking about how hot he is and how his babies are going to be so hot.
Like, I'll be 15 next month. It's like, ooh.
Also at that
moment,
at that moment in the movie, what would have been funnier would have been if it was subtitles. If it came up as subtitles and him just reacting and being like that would have been funnier than him saying it out loud. Because him
I was
saying
going
it
to
out
mention
loud,
that when we got to it, because that was also very bizarre. Because that's not somebody who is doing sign language will say the words because the person that's understanding it will know lip reading, but the other way, he's just doing it for the benefit of us. He is the subtitle, right? So it doesn't play right.
Yeah, and that's why just having it come up as text and him being like, and like reacting as the text is coming up would be much funnier. Yeah, being like, no. Like he grabs her hands and he's like, stop, let's go, we gotta go. Like that would have been funnier than him.
In fact,
like,
I was gonna carry you out of here, but you're on your own now.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, and then it was just all bad. It was just like I just didn't need a child to be in love with our hero to like somehow be
It's
empathetic
almost like
towards
it's trying
him.
to make him feel more desirable to the audience, but what it really did was just make the entirety of the movie kind of like tank at that moment where I'm like, ugh, this whole thing is uncomfortable and I don't like it.
Yeah,
Maybe that's why the perception of this movie was so low when it came out. This is all played for comedy.
I mean, not
obviously.
just this. The whole
Right.
movie is, there's a lot.
I remember people having such an aversion to this movie throughout the last nearly 30 years. You know what I mean? Like people just hate Speed 2 and love Speed 1. And that's just the vibe that I get from the people I've talked about doing this episode too, like my friends and stuff and family. And then like what you read on the internet, people always are like, yeah, Speed 2 is fine. It's got its problems, but Speed 2 is god awful. And like I was on board for a lot of it. I was like, are they going to make a better movie? And they very clearly made a worse movie. Hello. Whoa.
That was for you,
Wait.
Jason.
It was for all three of us. Let's be real.
I got a new drink from my princess.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so I would say for me, being a little bit older than you guys, and like, because when Speed 1 came out, I was like 14. I was like in the perfect age for like that kind of movie, like a simple action movie that was like PG-13 or something.
Oh yeah, you're 57, right?
Yeah, 57. So yeah, I remember that movie being like a real cultural like touch point. Like it was a huge movie, big success, like action movies.
Yeah.
And it like put Keanu Reeves on the map and all this stuff, and Sandra Bullock, and then like being so excited for Speed 2, and then being like, who the fuck is this guy? This guy sucks. And so I think that
you were like becoming an adult when this movie came out, so you were ready for this movie to be, because Speed 1 also is very like adult. It's got the stab to the ear, the fucking driving over your head. This doesn't have any of that really. It doesn't have any like gory, weird gore in it.
And it should have. That's the main.
Yeah.
I mean, like the closest thing is like, let's not split some hairs and then like hit a guy in the club and
or the people that,
and then he's alive for the rest of the movie, which is like, come on, he's not even like a corpse in a closet. This guy's alive.
I think the most
still?
horrifying thing in this whole movie is when the two people fall off the escape boat and disappear into the water. That was the part where I was like, ugh, is this going to get weird now? Is this going to get gross? But it never. The puke and people disappearing into
and the puke
oxygenated water.
The puke was supposed to be humanizing too. It's not even supposed to be like a terrifying thing.
So Boba Fett is now in control of the ship.
Yeah, and this is also when I was like, oh, Boba Fett isn't a bad guy. Okay.
Wait, can I talk about this? Boba Fett is that Irish guy with like the long hair?
No.
He's the
guy
New Zealand guy. Or is it
the guy who's on the ship and he's got
teeth like this.
Okay, the guy
he plays Jango Fett in the prequels,
in Star Wars,
and then he plays Boba Fett post when he comes back in the Mandalorian.
He's with them the whole fucking time. He's not got a Scottish accent. He's the guy who's like, okay, let's go. We need to do this. All right, let's go over here.
He's Australian or whatever.
Yeah, that guy. Okay, got it.
Was he Australian or from New Zealand?
He's
It's New Zealand,
indigenous of New Zealand. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He's a Maori, I think, possibly.
Maybe you should check it before you say
it.
Maybe I should. That's me just saying things again. I'm sorry. And now the deaf girl's stuck in an elevator, just like the first movie.
And she's like, "My dad called me a whore. I need to get out of here. This can't be my last thought."
At the fucking camera in the elevator. That'd be funny. But Willem Dafoe is blowing shit up at this point, but he does a weird thing where he's like faking the explosions. So he like does one bomb, but has these turns out that it's like sulfur that turns into like smoke.
All the computer stuff in the ship. So he makes everybody who works on the boat think that he's caused fires in all these rooms, but he actually is just closing the doors and putting sulfur smoke or whatever to make people think that there's fires.
And I guess he's trying to get my thought was he was trying to get everyone off the boat.
Yeah,
which is
I think that he didn't actually want to kill anyone as well, which I'm like, this is kind of good, but he still killed the captain, and I don't really understand this character. This is
because he wants the jewels that are on the cruise ship.
That's the other thing is like
he wants
the jewels, but he used to work for the company, and like he also says stuff that I think is supposed to be like a reason why he's crazy, where he's like, did you know that if you're exposed to copper wire for too long, you get copper blood poisoning? And it's like, what is that?
And the
real?
only way to treat it is leeches, which is like not a real medical practice. Like I don't
That's
know.
true.
He's
That's
crazy.
That's the insanity. There is a thing where
It does feel like a Batman. So like we talked about this, Jason, earlier. I was like, the first villain, he feels like a Batman villain, but he feels like a real, like, I got my thumb blown off and I love explosions. And you're like,
he's
okay,
a Matt
this guy
Reeves
loves-
Batman
This
character.
guy loves
It's
blowing
like
shit
so
up.
grounded. It's not even like
Whereas this guy feels like he's like, I'm a tech wizard, and because I was too close to like Wi-Fi or whatever, it gave me copper poisoning in my blood, and now I'm insane.
But there is an aspect of in the 80s when people were soldering computers a lot, because you had to like solder things to motherboards. Then you would get all these like diseases from breathing, like lung problems from breathing solder. So I think this might be a play on that, where he was around so many computers that. And then the 90s logic did into like, I got copper in my blood and it made me poisoned.
In the original script, he was called the solder miser.
That's our show for this week, folks. We'll see you next week when we're not here. We're pre-taping it, and we love you and Happy New Year. Dun, 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 dun.
But yeah, the whole thing with this villain is, it was just like so unhinged. It was like, did we need all this? He used to work at the cruise ship. He knows all about the cruise ship. He knows everything about the cruise ship. But he's also stealing diamonds for some reason. Not clear. But also he's sick and he's dying. And he's also, for some reason, using leeches. Like,
is it?
Why is it like they just keep adding things on? This guy that
the leech thing,
like the Dark
thing
Knight
is
Joker, where we don't really know what his problem is. It's kind of like the Mad Bomber from the first one, where he just.
I have the answer. Answer.
So, is it your theory? Is it a
they
theory?
wanted
The theory? So
okay, yeah, we can do this. Yeah, this is my theory. They made the first movie; it was a wild success. They're making the second movie, and they're like, "What was so good about the first movie? Speed was one. The speed of it was all great.
Yeah, so we should get something.
It was
slow.
on a contained environment that is easily controlled by the person that is the villain, and then the villain. And in the first one, the villain was like, I got my thumb blown off, and I used to be a bomb man. I used to be a bomb diffuser man, and then all they gave me after my whole time was a watch and a fucking blowjob or whatever. And you're like, oh,
cheap watch.
Yeah, cheap watch and a blowjob. And then this one, they're like, we gotta ramp up the villain. So he's also a bombardier, and he is on this boat. Okay, so what was good about the other guy? He was a part of the bomb squad. Okay, so this guy designed the boat. So why is he on the boat? He's got to get diamonds. Okay, he's getting the diamonds from the boat. But why else is he on there? He's just getting the diamonds? No, he's crazy. He's got copper poisoning from all the time being around, and they're trying to create like a James Bond style villain where it's like, why is he? And then their wish was for the third one to do the same thing, like make another crazy villain of LA who goes to a different part of the world. And then we'll get Keanu, like you said, Keanu Reeves will come back for the third one, and he'll have to be the Speed 3 speed demon or whatever the fuck are they call
it. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just like it felt like they had two ideas for a villain, one that wanted to steal diamonds
and one that had blood poisoning and was crazy.
And they just kind of like rammed them together and were like, well, I guess this guy wants to do both.
Yeah,
they did make a Speed 3 and 4. It's called Crank 1 and Crank 2.
Oh, dude, when I was thinking about like other Speed movie ideas, I kept coming back to Crank, and I was like, man, Crank ruled.
The man is the speed.
Yeah, Crank was, and Crank 2 was in my memory. I'll have to watch it again, but
if
I remember
them being cranking
so
it, you die.
Yeah. Have you guys done Crank yet?
No. I have every time vetoed it. I don't like the Crank movies.
Sorry. Really?
Yeah.
Well, fair enough.
And there's a Crank 3, which is a Ghost Rider 2.
Listen,
By the
every
same
night
people that are
before
very
I go to
similar.
bed, I say it's time for Crank 3, and I get wild, and then I go quiet for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
It takes just a few seconds of Crank, and then you're right. So, acting Captain Boba Fett, he presses the button to stop the ship or start it or whatever, because he says this ship will stop in 3 minutes, and they have 50 minutes to get everybody out, which is completely different than the bus thing, because the whole mad bomber thing in the first movie is like, if anybody leaves that boat or if anybody leaves that bus, I will blow up the bus. That's part of it. It's not just the bus that couldn't slow down. It's the bus that if anybody leaves the bus and it slows down, I blow everybody up. So I'm immediately like, what is this guy's fucking motive? What does he want?
Well,
he just
he
wants
doesn't
to
care
be an
about
agent of
anything, right?
chaos, right?
He's just, he's like, I want to make the cruise ship go out of control. That's all. He doesn't actually care about killing anybody, which I kind of like. Like, I like the fact that he's like, I'm not really here to kill anyone. I'm just here to like send this boat into the shoreline and maybe go through a couple other boats on the way. Like, who gives a fuck?
But like, why he just is like the Joker.
Because
He's
they've
like wants
fired
to
him,
hurt
yeah.
people.
His
They
whole
fired
thing-
him.
Yeah,
so
he
he's
keeps
mad.
saying they dumped me. They fucking dumped me.
But then why is he stealing the diamonds? Is that just
Money? Yeah, for money.
Yeah, okay. I'm just like, he has all these motives that I don't know, but we need them all.
It is the worst villain I've ever seen in anything. It's terrible. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. And like, but I like his performance as the villain. It's almost
Right,
like they were
yeah.
like, so you got the like, I feel like they went onto set and he's like, so
Sam Raimi saw
what am
this
I
performance and was like, that's my Green Goblin.
So he went on. He comes in the set. And he's like, Willem Dafoe was like, okay, so I'm getting the diamonds in this scene, and they're like, yeah, and he's like, okay, so what do once I have the diamonds, then what? And it's like, you just have them. He's like, I
You
have
get
them?
more
It's
diamonds.
Like, yeah, like a bag
cut
of them.
back
They're
to
like,
you
no,
and
no,
you're
no, you just
throwing
have them. They're
diamonds in a
just on
bag. It's
you.
hilarious.
Don't worry about where they are or anything like that. You don't have to worry about any of that shit. It's like, why do I have them now? It's like, because you have blood poisoning. What? Because what do you mean? I don't know.
Because you built the
crazy.
ship. Why
Yeah,
aren't you getting it?
Are you?
Figure it out.
Listen, Willem.
Are you crazy?
This is the movie where his name used to be William, and they kept calling him Willem, and he believed it afterwards. He's like, my name's Willem Dafoe now.
So, with Alex, not only is he a great shot, he's a psychoanalyzer, but also he can smell the smell of sulfur and just pick apart the whole ruse. At this point, he's like, nope, there's no fires. He's using sulfur to trick everybody. I can smell the smell of sulfur.
Sulfur smells like fart.
It smells like farts and rotten eggs. It's very
Like eggs.
specific.
Yeah.
So
and
if you were like getting blasted by like gaseous clouds of sulfur, you'd be like, that smells like fart. Like, you wouldn't be like, smells like smoke in here. You'd be like, why does it smell like a fart? What the heck?
I guess it's
So
either like a detective, like a cop who's always trying to, has one eye on everything all the time. Maybe I could buy it.
That you smell fart? You're like, it smells like a fart in here.
Yeah, like the big fat guy with the mustache was like, that's kind of like what it smells like when I leave the bathroom. Why are they trying to tell me that it's smoke? Smoke is very specific.
Wait, does he say
smell.
that for real?
No, he doesn't.
Oh,
but,
okay.
To the point of like,
that was a thing, because that seems like a thing that could happen in this movie,
right, with their narrative, but he very specifically says that it smells like sulfur, which, like we've talked about, is a very distinct smell. So I don't know why they went with that.
Well,
but
the reason is so that he can smell it.
Yeah, he can
so
realize,
and that he can say it so that we, the audience, can understand what he's saying, because we know what sulfur smells like, right? All of us.
well, because he saw the smoke coming out of the vents, and he's like,
Everybody saw it. Yeah,
that's not smoke. That's not burning. That's sulfur. Like
that smells like sulfur. Yeah.
No,
and then when they're forcing him on the boat, he says like, "This is crazy. Nothing here makes sense. The smoke smells like sulfur, which is not smoke. Like, that's not smoke. That's something else." And then
he was like,
Boba Fett's like, Darth Sidious told me that I need to tell you.
And then he saw the captain's Benoit balls on his desk and was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Balls.
They smell like sulfur.
Yes.
Balls. Yeah.
He did figure he did make a couple leaps that were a little bit much, but at least they set it up that he was already suspicious of this guy from before. So yeah.
We see the
golf
ship's
balls. Where's the golf ball guy? The golf ball guy. That's the guy that was hitting on my wife or whatever. And it's like, you're married, and he's like, technically not my wife, but you know, I was gonna propose on this cruise, and everyone's like, sure you were, Alex.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, we're right.
Every time we talked to her, she was talking about somebody named Jack, and that's not your name.
we see the ship stop, people rushing around. I think Alex and Annie are going to duck into a closet and try to save the day. That doesn't really happen, but some people don't escape. They're stuck down below. They're like stuck behind that door. And the parents of Danny, or whatever her name is, the deaf girl, just fucking abandon her because the dad's like, we got to get on to that. I'm sure she's already on.
The dad is
like, she's fine. She's already on the thing.
Mom is like, where
mom's
the
like,
fuck is
what are you
she
talking
at?
about? We got to find her daughter. He's like, nah, she's fine.
That's
Whoa,
not
buddy.
okay. Jason, come on.
That's what happens.
No, everybody is yelling at both of them that she's on another boat. She's on another boat. She's on another boat. And the dad is like, well, I guess she's on
Good
another
enough.
boat. Whatever. I don't have children. I don't know what it feels like.
She wasn't even on another boat.
No, she was
No,
trapped
she's
in a little
Little running
elevator.
And they already, this movie, did you guys have a problem with the fact that this series, they already did Elevator? Very famously in the first.
I think Jason loved it. Jason was like, another elevator, sick.
Yes.
No, it wasn't that I loved it. It was that this movie had a lot of callbacks to the previous movie, and I knew that they were doing this on purpose as a callback, which I do appreciate it and enjoy thematically. I think
do
it's
love
fun.
a good callback. When
There's something in the
done.
first movie that I love so fucking much that this is also like a weird thing from when I was a kid to now, which is like, you know, when he's like using that little tool to like like undo the screws on the panels.
Yeah.
And then when it goes through the elevator shaft, it sounds like almost like it sounds like a screaming like monster almost. And everyone's like, what is that noise? And they're all like scared. When I was a kid, I was like, what is that? No, and like it sounded like a monster to me. Like it was a frightening noise. In this, the chainsaw through the wall seemed like it was trying to emulate that, but it did not do the same job. Like it didn't even when I watched it as an adult yesterday, I was like, whoa, that's like a really good sound. And then the chainsaw in this, I was like, this is bad. Like this is like they're doing a thing from the other movie, but it's not in any way as like echoey or haunting or strange as it is in the first movie. It's like they're just throwing it in there to throw it in there.
I would say also the difference between the first movie feels less like a big blockbustery, like it does, but it feels more like self-contained, smaller. The stakes are smaller. It feels like the first one. It's like it should just be its own.
Like they're not going to have a 45-minute set piece at the end where a boat just slowly crashes into the ocean.
We're going to talk about that for a minute. But I think that's the biggest problem with this movie. It like they just tried to like up the stakes on every little minute detail of the first movie. And while I do like the fact she was stuck in an elevator as the callback, it like what you're saying with like the it doesn't have the same effect, the same gravity when it's just all big budget schlock, I think is the problem. And Alex just jumps off. He's like, I'm gonna go back and action man my way back into this whole situation. Yeah. And Boba Fett's like, no, you're not. You're a civilian. He's like, I'm in the NYPD, and it's like, that doesn't matter, man. You gotta.
There's also like the moments in the first movie that like, because the first movie is very, very exciting. Like almost every kind of beat of that movie is like, how do we get from the next exciting point to the next exciting point? And it's like sometimes they're doing like a frog leap over something that's like boring, where like you even forget about it after watching it because you're like, it's just there to like push us forward mentally in what the story is. Whereas this movie is like, no boring. Everything is always exciting to the point that
Everything is always explosions.
Your brain kind of like melts down to a point where you're like, I don't even give a shit about the naked people in the, like get the saw away from us so we can get out of here. We were having an orgy back here and we don't need to do it anymore. Whatever. You're like, oh god, what is going on in this boat?
Alex and Annie get a bit of a case of the fuckets here, where the winch breaks, it jams up, and
I think that Michael had to say something. Jason,
oh,
Michael, what did you want to say?
Oh, did I?
You went. And I was like, what are you gonna say? What are you gonna say?
I must have had something, but I forget it now. So it's okay.
My bad, Michael. I'm trying to move this plot along a little bit. But yeah, they do get a case of the fuckets because they do not give a shit. I don't know why. I think that Alex should have been like, Annie, you gotta go because you're the comic relief of this movie, and it makes no sense for what is happening. Everything is going haywire. And then he like jumps back to the ship, and he's trying to like one of the escape pods, one of the escape boats is like now fallen halfway down, and they're trying to figure out how to like get it like to lower down to the water correctly.
This is
I wrote
when
Action
my brain
Man.
started to be like, can you freaking imagine trying to release a movie about a cruise ship in peril the same year that the movie Titanic. And I was like, if I was working on Speed 2 Cruise Control and I knew that James Cameron was making Titanic, I'd be like, I don't know, man.
I don't know.
I
That's
think I
probably
gotta
what
go
Keanu
home.
saw. Keanu was reading the dailies, and he was like, not only does the script suck, but there's the sister movie is literally going to
Keanu's
win
like,
the
I need
Academy
to
Award.
Spruce up for my Jack audition.
Do you think anyone that was going to see Speed 2 accidentally walked into the Titanic theater and were like, I don't know. This
I don't
movie's
know, man.
like-
It's moving pretty slow.
They're like,
Yeah.
this flashback is really long.
Has nothing to do with the original Speed movie. But yeah, we get that great moment where the people fall in the water and just disappear, and everybody's like, ugh, which I thought was funny. And fucking Dante reappears, and he's the action man. And they do this dumb thing where it's like, don't move around on the boat, don't get out of the boat or get onto the boat. But then Dante's crawling all around it, and fucking I think Dante jumps directly onto the boat, or somebody jumps onto the boat after the woman, like the mom of the girl, moves forward, and it tilts, and then they're suddenly now like, it's okay, we can all jump onto the boat, and they're trying to move this boat around.
Jason, I'm 100% being honest with you right now. At this point in the movie, I was thinking way more about Titanic the movie, and like I kept like thinking about Titanic, that like I don't think my brain actually fully absorbed this part of the movie properly.
It's fine. I didn't really.
I was like,
it was all very dumb.
Remember Titanic when like all of this, what's happening is way better.
Way better.
Like
there's a lot of CGI in Titanic that still holds up, and all the CGI in this movie like sticks out like a sore thumb. What I want to ask
CGI, I was thinking about
what I wanted to.
All right, gentlemen, let's play the song. I was like, oh my god, remember how good Titanic was? Like all I was thinking about was Titanic.
Let me ask you guys a question about another movie. So we get that it cuts back to the girl in the elevator, and she shimmies up. So it turns out that she's a gymnast. Who do you think would win in a fight? Danny the deaf girl or the gymnast girl from Jurassic Park 3? 3.
No, 2.
2.
3. Because she kicks the raptor in the face when she's trying to escape with
Jeff Goldblum's
or am I thinking
butter?
of The Lost World?
That
Lost
is 2.
World is the second one.
Yeah.
Well, my question still stands. The gymnast from Jurassic Park or the
Jurassic Park, for sure.
Okay, well, you're probably right. She kicks a fucking.
She does like
raptor
a flying kick into a raptor's face and kicks it onto spikes. I think.
Yeah, there is a film evidence of her kicking a dinosaur.
Okay, well, I had to ask.
No, it's
I
a very, very
immediately-
valid question.
It's a good
I
question,
immediately
but
thought-
you know, the answer is
Yeah.
obvious.
I wrote down obviously the Jurassic Park girl. I didn't write that, but I should have.
Did you write down
her-
the Jurassic Park 3 girl? You fucking pervert.
I could have sworn it was Jurassic Park 3 because when they're
Are you
trying
thinking
to
of
get
Vince
out of
Vaughn?
He's also in Jurassic Park 2.
No, because Jurassic Park 3 has Dr.
Are you
Grant
thinking
has,
of
kids. There's like pterodactyls.
Are you thinking of H.K. Macy or whatever his name is?
William H. Macy.
Yeah.
You're
He's
thinking
in
of
Jurassic
J.K.
Park
Simmons.
3. He's in Jurassic Park 3. He's
Yeah,
Oh,
because
man.
in the Lost World, it was Jeff Goldblum, and he had a daughter, and there was the gymnast.
She
Yeah.
was the gymnast. She was
Yeah.
she was an adopted daughter because she's black and he's obviously not black. So I
Which
think
they
there's
never
even a
really
line in the
are.
movie
Yeah.
where Vince Vaughn is like, "Do you see a family resemblance there? Am I the one who's crazy?" And everyone's like, "Shut up!" And he's like, "All right."
Yeah, and she kicked the dinosaur.
Yeah,
You're
and she
right.
kicked, but she
You're
kicks
right.
a raptor out a wall and it lands on like a bunch of spikes, and the raptor's like, like it's got like all these spikes through it. And you're like, okay, you did the kick. She kicked it.
That's crazy. My bad. I thought that was that scene was in. I watched those two movies like about a year ago, one after another, and they kind of just melded into one
Well,
movie.
I
Jurassic
hope
Park
that
3
you
fucking sucked.
realize what you've done to me is imagine her, the girl from Jurassic Park 2, kicking the girl from this movie through a window, and she lands on spikes and is like, and I'm like, oh my god, that's great. Yeah, she fucking killed her.
Right. So Alex is apparently a genius because he knows there has to be a transmitter, and they know now that Geiger has done it because they find the golf balls. And I wrote, how is this a speed movie? The boat literally stopped for a minute and is a cruise ship that goes 3 miles an hour. But they do allude to it being
Jason
unable
also
to
being
stop.
like, he's like, wait a minute, this speed movie has no speed. What the heck? And like, and you look through the internet and you're like, wait a minute.
All right.
It has nothing to do with speed, Jason. The movie has nothing to do
Listen,
with speed.
has everything to do with cruise control. I have a fun fact for you. Sandra Bullock only agreed to return after Keanu Reeves declined, and her character was rewritten as comic relief.
And
which I
she was
believe-
given $20 million.
Yep. Also, fun fact: Willem Dafoe researched neurological conditions to add realism to his character's obsession with leeches. I don't know if there's a way to fact check
Also,
that. That's
fun
from
fact, William
ChatGPT.
Dafoe eats leeches to this day because of his role in Speed 2 Cruise Control.
Yeah, when he was like
Uh,
at the end, when he was like stuck in the airplane on the top
he's
of the thing,
laughing?
and he was like laughing, was like, I get that he's crazy, but like he wasn't that kind of
Is
crazy.
he that crazy?
Yeah, yeah.
Is he wild crazy? Yeah. That also made me be like, Joker, right? Like that's a Joker. This guy's a Joker, and he even has like a Joker face. Like
It's true, but he also got fired because he was like sick. So that's kind of like the Green Goblin. Like they oust him for being old in that movie and being
wait,
corrupt.
he got
And-
sick. What do you mean he got sick?
He got
They
sick with
fired
this
him
disease, and that's
Yeah.
why they fired him from the cruise job.
from the cruise technology.
He probably explained that
Oh.
when you were thinking about the
I
Titanic.
thought you
yeah.
meant like he was hired to be the Joker in a movie, and he got.
Oh,
sick,
no.
and they're like, you gotta go, and he's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And you're like, oh god, he's too sick.
Well, he played the Green Goblin, which is Spider-Man's Joker.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
So
Yeah. It's his greatest nemesis. People like to remember it being like Dr. Octopus, but I think Green Goblin is the most like prolific Spider-Man villain, in my opinion. This is he blows up the room he's broadcasting from, which is great. We get the line, we get the sequence down below where the people are still stuck. There's no little girls, just big women. Deaf girl makes it out through the top. We see her in like the walls of the cruise ship. And
Ironic.
right? I think it's a little ironic, I would say. And Harvey is the name of the guy with the mustache, is horny for Tamia, the singer. when she
Well,
makes
I mean,
she
the
says
singer
that
is
great
the
line.
I think maybe the hottest character in the movie, right?
Sandra Bullock.
I would never say that Sandra Bullock is not attractive. I'm just saying that that woman is like probably the hot, like the
Yeah,
singer
she's like a
is probably
hot
the
pop
hottest.
star.
Yeah, she's
That's
like the
true.
hottest character in the movie. Yeah.
That's true.
If Keanu Reeves was in this movie, I'd say
It'd
that
be
he was
Keanu.
probably the hottest character in the movie, but he's not. So,
So then we get the weird scene where they're just trying to like block the vents from the smoke, but they're like, as they're blocking it, they're just like face first in the smoke,
Yeah.
which I was like, what are you doing? And then
This
Anna
is where I
shows
had to
up.
take a break, and I was still watching, but I was like, I can't. I have
You're
to.
thinking about Titanic again.
Yeah, I was like,
Exactly.
remember that part where the guy falls and hits the like
Yeah.
the whatever, the turbine or whatever,
And just gets eviscerated.
he doesn't get eviscerated. He just gets hit and he falls in the water.
Oh yeah, but is it the turbine or is it like a guardrail? I think it's a turbine,
It's
right?
a turbine, but it's not
Okay.
spinning. It's just
Right.
dead, and he hits the side and goes bing, and he like falls into the water. And I remember seeing that as a kid, and then some other kid behind me who must have been around my age cackled, like he started cackling with laughter. And then my dad started laughing because of this kid laughing. And then I started laughing. And then my mom and my sister started laughing. And there's like a bunch of people, like a pocket of people laughing at somebody dying in this movie. And then other
luckily
people got mad at us. Yeah.
Of course. Anna shows up. She's looking for something to open the door. Dante's there. She hands him something, which I think I don't know. Like these, did you notice for as high production values this movie is, the doors, every time they push on them, seem like you could just kick them down, but they have to pretend like they're like these like bulkhead doors.
They didn't build real doors, Jason. Those are
No.
fake doors.
I get it. I agree with you. I'm just saying that a lot of things didn't look cheap in this movie. It's funny that the doors you couldn't break through with
I have to say
any
that
force at all were
the
able to not be broken.
sound effects in this movie were also very much like, that's when a movie has a high production value, they make their own sound effects. So they hire a person.
A
Me,
Foley
you,
artist.
any of us could do it to make original sound effects for things. So when like a door opens, like that's me making the noise or whatever. A movie that has a high production value but a low post-production budget, you can always tell because they have sound effects that are just there, that exist, that they can use. And this movie is fucking full of those recycled sounds. And they're not even, they don't even try to make them different. There's like, the first time you hear like when he's down, when he's down in the basement and he's like, and he's like fucking with everything or whatever, and like you hear the alarm go off. That's a Star Wars alarm that's been used in every Star Wars movie. And I'm like, they didn't even change it. They didn't even like try to like deepen it or like make it go faster or slower. It's the exact same, like ring, ring, ring. I'm like, that's a Star Wars sound effect. And like the doors, like they could have made it deeper or they could have done anything, but no, it's just some guy throwing a sound effect on. No effort at all. So this movie didn't give a shit about their fucking Foley budget. They didn't have a Foley artist. This is just
because they spent all the money on the CGI rope later.
Yeah, this is all stock sound effects, man.
We cut over to Alex and he's like interrogating the Scottish guy and he starts smashing stuff and he's trying to explain to him that like, a terrorist has taken over the ship. We have to like figure this out and we have to come up with some ideas. We need to slow the ship down. So they're going to flood the ship just a little bit. Meanwhile, still back in the hold, this endless scene, Anna fucking finds a chainsaw, which is another one of my favorite parts of the movie, where she like chainsaws the door opening and she gets a hole in the door. And then as people are like, okay, we can leave now, she's just revving the chainsaw in their faces, which I thought was like that's funny. That's like actual comedy, I would say. And I don't think this movie is devoid of comedy when it's firing on all cylinders. The funny parts shown for me a little bit. I think that there were some legitimate and funny moments in this movie that almost bring it into like more of a like comedy realm as a versus Speed, which is like doesn't really have any comic relief. It's just like
No,
go.
the comedy in these movies are they're supposed to be like chuckles, like smart chuckles. And I can't even really think of one from the first movie. Can you guys?
Basically, just the guy from Ferris Bueller. His like her one-liners are like kind of funny, but there's no like.
But even that character in the first movie is like weirdly sort of like red flaggy at the beginning.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
and like by the end, you're like, oh, he's not a red flag. He's just an idiot. Like
a nervous idiot.
Yeah, but like I think it's more to like today's standards. Like this guy is being I think it's his clothing matched with what he's. If he was wearing something less fancy, like he would seem more sort of relatable, I guess.
I mean, my problem with him and basically all of the comic relief in both of these movies is it was like it felt like he was in a different movie. He was like.
Yeah,
it was like he was just like being weird, being like, I'm a tourist, I'm visiting, and that's my first time in LA. And it was just like, who behaves like, are you like a deranged maniac that wandered onto the bus? Like what? It's like it was so unusual.
And it doesn't get better. Like it's not like a change. Actually, you know what? I take what I just said back, because there is one moment in the first movie where he does such a good job of telling the guy on the other end of the phone of what's happening. Like when he's holding the phone and Keanu Reeves is like, it's a red wire, and he's like, looks like a wet red wire, and like he's doing like a perfect job, and he's almost like making it more clear. Like it's not like he's making it more confusing. It's almost like he's clearing up a little bit of what he's saying into the phone. And I'm like, this is how I would be. if somebody gave me this job, I would make sure that I made it better, because he's doing a better job. But everything before that and after that, no, there's nothing there. So I remember when I was watching that the other day, I was like, is this character going to be like much better than they are in the movie, and they're actually going to help the situation? No, he ends up just getting kind of like racist and like weird and like angry with the other people around him. And I'm like, I guess not really. But when he was talking on the phone, it was great. I was like, this guy knows what he's doing on the phone.
I would like to make a clarification. The little girl's name is Drew, not Danny.
Yeah.
I just because now they.
Well, Andy is the name of Sandra Bullock. Right?
Annie. Isn't it Annie?
Is it
Annie?
Annie
is Sandra Bullock. They call her Anna and Andy, I believe, but she's Annie. She's cast as she's billed as Annie. We see Drew in the like the area below as they're about to like flood the place. They see her like wandering around, and they're like, "Oh shit." I wrote, this is going to be fucked, because it
how are we going to talk to her from up here?
They get blasted by floodwaters, and there's a bunch of trying to get out of the water. This is cut to Alex going down to try to save her. And this is the scene, like them trying to escape out of there as the water's rising. They just stop in like a room, and they have that scene that we were talking about earlier where they're having that back and forth where she's talking to him in sign language and he's saying it out loud for the benefit of the audience. I agree with you, Steve. I think subtitles would have been much better.
I don't think it would have been better.
That's not how you respond to a deaf person. Yeah.
The thing about the scene is that it's gross, right? It feels gross.
Right.
And the reason it feels gross is because it's him saying it out loud. I think we already talked about this, but like,
she says, I'll be 15 soon. I love you.
Well, she doesn't say that. He says that.
He says it. Yeah.
But she says that to him in sign language.
Yes, but he's the one saying it out loud, which makes it weird and disgusting.
It doesn't make it better, that's for sure.
he says the line from the first movie to him, which she wouldn't be able to hear. He basically says it right down the barrel of the camera. Relationships that start under extreme circumstances rarely work out, which is like, that's literally just a callback, funny, but it's not a
But
fun
also the fact,
moment.
Jason, that he doesn't sign it to her means he's just saying it, which means he did
Right.
not correct what she just said, which means that he's a fucking sick pervert.
He's a pervert.
He should have been like, situations under like he should have done it, you know, he should have done the thing.
We do get a conversation with some of the people on the ship. They're like, we can just jump off the ship, right? And then I think Dante or somebody's like, well, you would get sucked into the propellers, and that would suck. No, Annie says it because she's the one that's constantly trying to be funny. Now, Geiger, the computer psycho, Alex gets the deaf girl back to the squad and explains the situation. Our hero tracks down Geiger, but he literally controls the whole boat from his wrist and closes the door on Alex's gun, which he's like pointing a gun at him down a corridor. And I feel, I made a note about feeling like you need to build up to a cruise here. We already talked about that. They do a cat and mouse thing through some corridors, and he catches them in a room where Geiger traps himself in. Like, so did you guys notice this? I think this was weird. We get a point of view from Geiger when he's smashing trying to smash the glass out and get into the room that Geiger's in. This is another situation where the doors don't seem very flimsy for how steadfast they're supposed to be portrayed to us. But I swear he broke the glass out and they cut away really quickly. I thought that was a funny little
big chunk of glass. It's not even like the glass shatters. It's a
big chunk
of
out, right?
glass. Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad that you caught that because I thought I was like, there's no way.
It's not catching it, Jason. This is just fucking bullshit movie making. This is a bullshit movie. We're watching a bullshit movie.
We're moving fast now too. Like we're getting through stuff, which is really great because there's a lot of stuff we can dwell on, and that's like the fun early part. But once it goes full action, the stuff just keeps happening.
Yeah.
And he does a Joker laugh here when he's on the other side of the glass. But we get this weird situation where he's behind a glass. Alex runs to the door. It blows up because there's a grenade there.
No.
And
the glass blows up behind him.
Right.
And he goes up and he's smashing the window, and then he's about to smash the handle, and then he looks and he sees like a little green, and he's like, wait a minute, I'm a bomb man, I know everything about bombs. And he sees a little bomb, what do you call that, a little bomb hair sticking out between the doors.
A wick?
It's a bomb hair. It's a bomb hair. I think that's the technical term is bomb hair.
The technical term.
That's the bomb hair. And then he doesn't do it, and then Boba Fett and
they show up on the other side of the door.
Miss Congeniality show up on the other side of the door.
I can't believe we didn't reference that this whole time. That's so good.
And
that's so funny.
They say, "Hey, Alex, are you over there?" And he like immediately appears, and he's like, for some reason,
which was like a weird jump scare for no reason.
Yeah, but also it's like
I'm glad you
he's
picked up
in
on
a
that as well.
Huge room. Like he's got lots of time. It's like this is one of those.
They're diffusing a grenade like it is a time bomb. There's no electronics hooked up to it, but
they also keep showing him being like, and like every time he turns around, the sound effects of the movie are like fire sound effects, like he's about to get burned alive, but it's on the other side of the room. Like if you were to look at it, it would be like the fire's over here and he's over here, and it's like the fire is like slowly coming to him, but it's never moved from here. And he's like, get it open, god damn it, get it open, the fire is gonna get me. And they're like, okay, well, what do we need to do? Just open the door, the fire. And the fire doesn't, I never at one point during that interaction felt like the fire was endangering anybody there. But maybe I'm wrong.
They diffuse this grenade by just like holding down the handle with some string, and then they, you know,
No,
they
he
pull-
makes her
Whoa.
take off a necklace, I think, doesn't he? Like, isn't he take?
No, it's a shoelace. You'd say the shoelace
No,
off of
he
Boba
says the
Fett's.
spoon has to, and she has like a spoon necklace or something. Or am I wrong?
No, the spoon is the handle. The spoon is the handle.
Oh.
That's what I.
So she
got
didn't
out
have
of
a spoon necklace.
No.
Okay.
Um.
This
Yeah,
is
she's
a
got-
moment in the movie where I was like, did I miss a spoon necklace? I was like, is he talking about a spoon necklace?
That's the way I interpret it. Is that they use a technical term for the part that you're supposed to hold in before you throw the grenade. That's the
Why would you
spoon.
ever tell somebody that a piece of a grenade was called a spoon
I mean, yeah,
if they didn't know about a grenade? If I knew every piece of a grenade and I knew a piece was called a spoon, I would say the long piece that looks like a spoon. I would never
Right.
call it a spoon.
Yeah, I had that same thought. I was like, I had that like moment of like, what the fuck is he talking about? And
Yeah,
like,
spoon.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I get it. But it's like, is that where you want someone's headspace to be in a situation like that?
To say the spoon when they don't know what the
Yeah.
And they're like,
spoon is?
"What?"
Yeah.
They're like, "Steve." They're like, "What spoon are you talking about?" During this whole sequence. But we do learn that he's adjusting again to crash the ship into like an island, and there's a
No,
there's
I'm
an
sorry.
oil-
You cannot say the spoon. You can't say the spoon. Jason,
Yeah,
are
yeah.
you telling me you would know what somebody meant when they said the spoon if you've
No,
never
that's not what I
seen a
said at all. I
grenade
said that's
ever?
how I interpreted the scene. That I knew what he meant because the only thing that could possibly
Imagine
when
that
he's
you were
like, just
holding a
press the
grenade right now.
press
and
the
like said,
spoon to the grenade and tie it with string. I just use context clues to be like, oh, I learned something more than anything. I learned that on that style of grenade, the part that you push in and then let go when you throw it so it explodes is called the spoon. That's what I learned something, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
I'm talking about real life.
I think what I said is more than acceptable. Can we move on?
No, but okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he adjusts the ship trajectory to, I don't know where they were going, but he turns the ship to go into this island, and there's an oil tanker. We learn that he's going to crash the ship into the oil tanker. It's just like, what are you doing? You're just doing crazy shit after crazy shit after crazy
This is
shit.
when we all realized that we're like, oh, this guy's not a Batman villain. He's like a Shatman villain. Like he's like a terrible version of a Batman villain. He's just
Right.
like, he's not doing anything for the sake of doing it. He's just like, we're gonna throw this thing into this thing, and then it's gonna blow up.
Well, I think the villains from both movies, I think the point of both of their characters is that they're insane people that don't really have any clear vision of what they want. The
Yeah,
whole jewel thing is still throwing me off. The whole jewel heist.
The jewel thing
moment-
is the weirdest part about this movie. 'Cause you're like, so he
That's what
wants
you're
the
trying to do.
jewels, or
This
what?
movie, he gets the jewels and leaves, and people are just on the escape boats like, oh, he's gone. Can we get back
I
on
mean,
the ship
I
now, or
think
do
we
have
all
to
assume he
keep
wants
leaving?
the jewels. And also, it's so
Right.
weird that the jewels are there. Like, why are the jewels on that boat?
Which they don't talk about at the beginning of the movie. Like, they don't do that thing where they like keep
They
showing
did.
the jewels.
They
Oh,
did
yeah,
at
they
one point
did.
when they were at the restaurant and they were all sitting down. They had this big thing like, oh, check out these jewels, and they were like on display for everyone, and they walked around and showing the
Okay.
jewels and stuff.
We're transporting these jewels from one side of the world to the other. You're like, what? Why are these jewels on the boat? They're just.
But it was just the most unnecessary thing. Like,
Yeah.
everything could have been exactly the same. They just erased the jewels. I don't understand why the jewels were there.
What was that
I
other?
mean,
what-
I kind of like the idea of the jewels being there, but I don't
Right.
like that nothing really revolved around the jewels being there at all, except for him being
The
like,
jewel thing reminds me of that. What was that cruise ship horror movie we went on the other podcast for? I think it was Charlize Theron or somebody. She was like a jewel thief, and it was also like, what is the point of this jewel thief? You remember that?
I do, yeah, I remember being on that, but a little
That
bit.
movie had a similar thing to this with the jewels, where it was just thrown in there for some reason.
It seemed like it was there just to be like, there has to be a reason for the bad guy to be doing the bad guy things.
Yeah.
and the reason is jewels.
What's that movie? What's the fuck is the cruise ship horror movie? The
It was called like
Ghosts of Ghosts of Ships.
Are you,
It's
are you
a
thinking
very-
of The Ring?
No, I'm not thinking of The Ring. That's a movie where a ghost comes with the TV and famously becomes a jewel thief and steals a bunch of rings,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I guess just my issue, and I feel like I've already said this, but we're talking about the jewel thief. My main thing is like he's there to steal jewels because he wants just to have jewels so he can be rich. That's
I
a
think.
motivation. But then why is he also sick and dying?
And wants to crash the ship, I guess.
What is that?
'Cause-
How is that related? Is it that he wants, like, it's not that he needs the money for his health, medicine, or to get.
We all
revenge
watched
on
this
someone?
movie,
I
right?
don't know.
Like,
I'm just like
we
so
all
lost.
I mean,
watched
I
this
sort of
movie.
watched it. Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, three of us watched this movie and we can't figure out any of his motives besides, like, oh, I worked for this company. I want jewels because they're there.
I mean, listen, I don't want to be crazy about it, but he's like a Luigi almost, where he's like, he's
okay.
like, I'm killing the scrubway because the scrubway made me feel like a scrubway.
I inadvertently my speed 3 was like inadvertently based off of this character's insanity with his eels or his leeches and the flat earth stuff came directly from this character and his insanity. So maybe it is that maybe he's like he thinks he's a freedom fighter by taking down this,
Well,
ship
think
full of
about
rich
the
people.
first movie, which is like he just was holding people hostage for money. Right?
Yeah, he felt he had injustice in his life that he needed to correct, and was also a fucking insane person.
But that's what this guy is doing as well. But instead of being able to hold people responsible for the injustice, he's like, I'm going to go straight to the injustice and steal all the jewels or whatever,
And then put leeches all over my body because it takes the copper from my blood.
Well, I didn't want to put that part in, but yeah, that's the beginning part where he's like, I trust you more than I trust my doctors.
I trust my own
HMO.
nurse. Yeah. So they come up with a brilliant plan that they're going to. This is also confusing. They want to stop the thruster, like they want to stop the spinner thing. Like fuck. What are they called? What are the two things on the back of a ship that spin so it goes?
Propeller?
The propeller. They want to stop the propeller, but also make it so it slows so they can turn the boat. That's how I interpreted this.
And that's a
slow
rudder.
They're trying to slow down.
Isn't the rudder the little flap?
The
at
rudder
back?
is the part that moves you, but the
but
propeller is the
if
thing
you
that
slow
they
down the propellers, then the rudder is what puts
then
you
they
in
can turn the boat easier. Right.
Oh yeah. Initially they were saying when he was going under the water and he put the rope through and everything, that was to slow the boat down.
Yes.
I guess
they had to slow it down to be able to turn it. I think.
Yeah, I guess that's the idea.
happening.
Yeah, but the fact again that we're talking about it means that the movie didn't do a good enough job explaining to us what
this whole part was so stupid, and I didn't.
Well, it's fast too, but my biggest takeaway at the very beginning is when they show the guys on the oil tanker are just like, "Hey, this freaking guy over here, we're fucking poverty-stricken fucking New Yorkers over here. Hey, you like movies? Yeah." And they make some reference to some movie. I can't remember what the movie was now. Do you guys remember what the movie reference was?
Yeah, they said, "Wicked! I saw Wicked, did you?" And they're like, "Yeah, I saw it too." And I
On Broadway.
loved
I
Wicked.
freaking love that when the fucking Dean Dazelle or whatever her freaking name is over here. Anyway, I thought it was funny how they portrayed everybody on this oil tanker. I was like, that's insensitive. There's
Yeah,
a lot
remember
of
when they started going, "Oh, we oh."
that was my favorite part.
I literally wrote oil work equal poor because of how they portrayed these people.
Yeah, well, they were saying oil work. We
oil work.
Hey, oil work.
And then the people on the cruise ship were like, "Do you think that other ship's gonna save us?" While they're just fucking barreling.
And then they
towards
somehow
it.
like hard break the ship, so it like and it like just scratches.
It Tokyo drift.
Worst thing I've ever seen in any. It doesn't. It should have just plowed through it. They should have plowed through the middle, and a bunch of explosions should have happened. But instead, they blew their budget on them going.
Well, I think this movie, from about the like hour and 10-minute on, exponentially falls apart. And this is a great example of the insanity that this movie tries to like sell us. This fucking ship careens, and then there's nothing happening in the movie but like that scene in Austin Powers where it's just like the guy's like, oh, and the thing's moving very slowly towards him. He's like,
Jason, he goes like this.
No. Yeah, exactly.
And the guy's like,
that's what this whole 15-minute fucking sequence. And this is what you were talking about earlier, Steve. This is what we kind of talked about this already. You could shave 20 minutes off this movie and it's the same movie. Hands easily.
Do you want to tell me? Do you want me to tell you what my theory of this last segment of this movie was?
Tell me about a theory, Steve. You gotta do the thing.
Okay,
tell us a theory.
My goddamn theory was that the entire writing team was like, all right, so we've gotten up to the point where the boat smashes up against the other boat. It really like smashes bellies and they scrape and it comes off, and then the other boat is left behind. But the boat that we've been following this whole time, the boat full of every single character that we love, the ones that we've been following this whole film are on top of. They're all inside the bridge, the wheelhouse, and they're trying to be like, how do we control this? And everyone's like, nobody knows. We can't know anymore. We're out of control. And they start to go towards the island. And like everyone looks to the island. They're like, oh God, what do we do? The island's there. And all the writers of this movie went into the room and they're like, so what do we do when the boat hits the island? Is the boat going to hit the island? And everybody looked at each other and they went, yes. And they're like, okay, so when it hits the island, what happens? What kind of people? What kind of scenarios? What's going to happen? And they started writing stuff on this whiteboard. A man running, and he is running with his dog, and he's teaching his dog how to do backflips. And this lady has broken up with her only.
A guy who has a perfect amount of time to run away from the boat still jumps off the pier. Also, is one of the dumb things that I noticed during it.
And everybody writes all their dumb shit down. And it's this huge whiteboard of all these different things. You know, like people kissing, people fucking in like a weird little hidden alcove in the distance. One guy is like,
kid is like, hey, there's a ship coming. Yes, there's lots of ships in the harbor.
Yeah, that kid says that. And then there's like another kid who's like, I know everything there is to know about coral reefs to be. And he like looks at like another person and the other person's like, okay, whatever. And then, you know, like they're about to film it. And then another guy comes in and he's like, doom, 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 like the Chad music from like whatever TikTok video you watch. And he like circles all of it. And he's like, and he goes, we're going to film all of it. Ding, 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 ding.
And then he backflips out the window and never to be seen again.
Yeah. And they did, and they filmed every single goddamn segment,
including
they came up with
the very last thing where the boat slowly comes to a stop, almost destroys this guy's beautiful car. And then, but it doesn't hit it, and it's like, oh, the car is saved, and then the anchor falls into. And then in that moment, for that joke, it put me in the space of like, wait a minute, this boat had an anchor the whole time? The time we were trying to slow the boat down, no one thought about the anchor that was there?
No, and also once they save the girl, they don't just go back to the original plan of flooding the fucking things that you're supposed to flood. they're just like, new plan. We are going to go down and we're going to stop the propeller. It's like, just fill the bottom of the boat up.
Guys, the boat
sink
had,
the boat slowly.
the boat had multiple anchors. There's a scene where they drop all the anchors and they get ripped out of the side. That happens.
But then
Yeah,
there's a
that's
boat
true.
at the end that fell in the car.
I know that was
Made an
their
anchor.
last anchor. That was the last one. It just it was delayed or whatever.
Just fucking pre-cummed out
Yeah.
of the.
And then
Oh, yeah.
the dog, remember, that was also the car that had the dog in it. And the guy's like, my car.
Yeah.
Also, that car, I'm pretty sure, was the same car from the first movie. You remember when the guy was like, gets his car stolen? I think it's the same like model.
As
car.
like a nod
Yeah.
to the first one.
And you're like, oh, that's a nod to the first movie. And then like 2 seconds later, it's the actual character who owned that car from the other movie. Like,
So there was also the part 2 where Geiger catches them and gets Anna, and she makes sure to start the machine to pull the boys back on the ship. This is like before Steve's theory. The oil balls are freaking out. Anna fights back a little bit. This is the speedboat part that I thought, but it isn't even a speed. This is a huge reveal for me. There's a speedboat a little bit later with the guy from Striptease in the first movie, but they get away on like a thing that's like 2 jet skis connected to like a flat top thing. And I thought that was a funny thing because she also just escaped by just like pressing the connect button and still gets caught.
that's also like a machine that like poor people like us will never understand, right? We'll be like, what is that thing?
I don't
Is
have
that like
one
a
jet
boat for
ski,
your boat,
let
Like a
alone
boat
a
that
rack to
drags your
necessitate
boat?
multiple jet skis. I think is a great line to use there. Also, as they were careening towards the jet ski, towards the oil rig, I wrote a note that says, "I think this ship is going to butt fuck this oil rig," and I laughed. I laughed at it. So they jumped the bus over the gap. Just jump the boat over the oil ship. Why didn't they think to do that? Too many jokes at once. I know you guys are trying to reel from the last comedy I just did.
Yeah, it's really hard to get over how
That's
good
a
that
lot
was.
of
Jason,
funny
you're
things
going too quickly.
Well, I'm filling in. You're at the point where the ship fucking falls.
I thought I
over.
made like a pretty funny thing. You just
You did. It was good. I was cracking up at the coral reef kid. They sideswipe the tanker. The day is saved. Why are there 20 minutes left in this movie?
No,
Now-
at this point, there's 35 minutes left.
Yeah.
I know because I looked and I was like, what?
Yeah,
Wait,
I had the
what?
same. I don't remember the exact time, but I remember having that same thought of like, okay, movie's wrapping
How?
up, and then being like, wait a minute,
This
What?
should be 15 minutes, not 40 minutes. Hold on. What's going on here?
So I really liked the sequence where they go through the sailboat minefield and Dante gets on the thing to be like, hey everybody, please move out of the way. There's a cruise ship coming through, and everybody's like, oh fuck, there is. And it just, so I, from a production or movie production standpoint, did they set up, like, was this on a set or was this in a bay where they drove a cruise ship through a whole bunch of boats?
I will say it didn't look like the miniatures of the first one because the set piece at the end of the first one is clearly like a miniature train
There's a-
going through like
yeah.
This looked pretty real, but like it can't be real for the most part. So I'm like, I think the lighting just makes it look more real than it actually is, right? Like it can't be real.
And I meant to do that before we talked here today, but like there must be a YouTube video that talks about, because I was watching that and being like, this, I don't think this is miniatures. But how the fuck are they doing this?
There were people diving off the boats as a cruise ship was coming.
There are
through them.
things that make things look more miniature,
like a forced perspective kind of a thing, maybe.
Well, okay, so like there are things that make things look more miniature when it comes down to like this type of thing. And I looked at the first Speed movie, and a lot of it was dust and lighting and like, you know, like something jittering back and forth. You're like, doesn't have the weight to it that you can like you can kind of feel like a real train.
And that was kind of my point of the difference between the two movies. That
But in
dust and that
this-
lighting and the in speed versus this, it's all very like bright, and you can't hide behind that.
Yeah, a big giant boat isn't going to have the same sort of levels of dust and light and weight to it.
And weight, yeah.
So and also, you've never seen something like that before in your life.
It's
right?
true.
Like,
They haven't done.
I've seen
this
I've seen a subway car. I know what it looks
Yeah.
like when it moves. I've never seen a giant, huge ass fucking cruise ship crash into a boat or like I don't even a harbor, I guess, like a harbor
Yeah, it
town,
was a harbor. Yeah.
like split it a harbor town. Like I don't know what it looks like, so I would never be able to have that comparison in my brain, but I do have a comparison of what a subway car moving through something small looks like.
Right. There's also a really funny moment where I yell at my screen, just let the boat crash. People are going to see it coming. They'll get out of the way. They'll do Steve's monologue about every naval thing possibly happens. Every ship crashing into a harborside town happens. And we see all that. But right before that, a guy fucking is driving his car. Is this the car you were talking about? That like goes off a jump into a building, which probably did more damage than this ship would end up doing. It crashes right through the side of a house.
Yeah.
And I was like, just let the fucking ship crash. And they kind of do, but they managed to slow it down to a point that it's at 0 knots once it finally stops. And
But like what I said before about the guys circling the like everything, that like that's real, right?
Yeah.
Like you guys
yes,
felt
I
that,
agree with
right?
you.
Oh, I
like,
felt that.
it was
There was
like-
like there was like wakeboarders and like
Yeah.
at one point a sailboat which has no
They
fuel
even-
on it at
they
all
even had the guys
hit the
in-
boat and exploded.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, they even had the main characters of this movie are on the bridge, and as it starts to crash, they fly out the windows of the bridge.
Mhm.
Alex goes flying down the front of the ship during this.
But it's not even like
insane.
everything is like out of control. Like some of the stuff is very normal. Like there's like just
Yeah.
two people having sex in a bed and they're like, oh, and they're like covering themselves, being like, oh, I hope that giant boat doesn't get in here and look at my fucking nippies. And you're like, okay, what's happening here?
So they think everything's fine. The ship filled with T-Rexes has made it into port, and then it tips, which was also I laughed at that. There were moments in this movie that genuinely got me from a comedy standpoint, and when I noticed that the ship is making that creaking sound and it starts to tip, I was like, oh fuck, they're screwed. And then it's the guy from the start, I thought he was in this movie, but apparently he was in the previous movie. The guy with the dreads from Striptease. He shows up.
This is my most favorite part of the entire movie. Is this fucking prick Alex? Everybody hates him. I hate him. You guys hate
Alex, dude.
him. He runs up to this guy, the sweetheart from the first movie.
I have to commandeer your boat.
And he says, I have to take your boat. And he's like, I'm on a date. Can't you see I'm on a date? And he's like, I don't give a fuck if you're on a date. We're going that away. And then he steals this guy's boat, but he doesn't steal it because he makes sure that he's on the boat with him. Just like Keanu Reeves did in the first movie, which is like he steals the car and then brings him with him.
But he also said, I'm LAPD. And he was like, what the
Don't you know how
fuck
much
should I-
fucking
We're in the
therapy
Caribbean.
I've had to have? Yeah, he says we're in the Caribbean.
He actually shows the PTSD that Sandra Bullock should have shown through the whole movie. He's like, I can't deal with this again.
Yeah.
The guy got his car destroyed and now his boat.
There was
Yeah,
also
he ended
a,
up he
In
ended
the
up
first
being like
movie, it's like such a short, tiny moment too of Keanu Reeves getting into his car, and Keanu Reeves is like pulls a gun out and points at his head, and he's like, "Holy fuck! All right," and he like slowly moves into his own car, and then Keanu Reeves gets in, and then they drive, and then he makes him drive, and then he jumps out of the car onto. No, wait, he jumps into the bus from the car, right? I think.
yeah.
and it's good. But then he's like so enamored by Keanu Reeves jumping off his car. He's like, holy shit. And then he like drives into one of those like water barriers where like, like all the car, like the water, like goes crazy. You know what I mean?
I do. What were you going to say,
That's-
Michael?
Oh no, I was agreeing with Steven.
Okay.
He jumped. He broke the door off of his car. Like he smashed the door off the car. I think so he could jump back into the bus from the car,
Right.
or jump into the bus. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in this movie, it's the same thing, I guess. But in this movie, he's like, I'm on a date, and he's like, I don't give a shit. We're going, and you drive the boat. And he's like pointing his gun at him, and I'm like, or wait, is he holding a gun? No, he's not holding a gun because he doesn't have a gun.
He
like,
just
"I'm out of
threatens to.
TV."
He's like, he's like, get closer to the airplane, and he's like, why would I do that? And he's like, because if you don't, I'll throw you off the boat.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
like, all right.
So I kind of like this because I feel like this guy secretly likes this shit, where he's like, yeah, all right,
And
I did
that's,
this one
you know-
time, and everybody, and this is the reason that I'm more famous than I am now.
Mhm.
Like he likes it, you know.
I mean, he was more lovable in this movie because he was like, at a certain point, he was like, I want to help this guy out. Like, let's help him out. And he was like, yelling at him, like, the boat's going to explode. Stop flying or whatever. Yeah.
I liked the through line sort of bit joke where Boba Fett gets his arm pulled off by when the ship comes off earlier. He gets his arm blasted, and during this sequence too, he gets his other arm. He just almost an ADR line. He says, "I think my other arm's broken," and then Alex is like, "Haha, we made it. We did it. I'm gonna go track down this bad guy now." And he slaps him on the shoulder, and he's like, "I just said my arm is broken. I'm gonna go see what the other people are doing. I gotta save them." I thought that was a really funny little in-movie callback to do there. I just wanted to bring that up. And this is when Annie escapes easily by being like, "Hey, look over there," and hits the release button. And now we're in finally a high-speed chase situation in this movie. And the boat was the jet ski. A speedboat, a jet ski, and a plane all in the same sequence, which I thought was excellent. And a harpoon gun. And he's like, "Oh shit, a harpoon gun," which is great. And I wrote, "This is great. Action Man actions onto the plane, and action punches the Green Goblin. No way. Airplane into the oil tanker. Not quite. He loses one of the banana peels. I guess that's what the bottom of a seaplane is called, because he's in a seaplane, which I never knew. I would believe that the bottom parts that you're supposed to land in the water with. Also dumb, because why does it just disconnect so easily? Sorry, I know that's a lot of information. Very quickly.
I would actually call that the spoon of the plane.
The spoon of the plane.
Yeah.
But basically he loses that thing, and Alex and Annie escape, and the plane crashes into the oil tanker, but gets impaled on a pole while everybody's escaping the oil tanker. And that makes no sense as something. How is it strong enough to stop a fucking moving plane? That was. Did you guys have a little problem with this pole coming out from the? You have a problem with that at all?
I don't care about this.
No. I don't care. He laughs like the Joker, and it explodes. Though.
Yeah,
we can all.
I
agree.
do like that he gets stuck on a pole. Yeah, it's
yeah, that was weird. I've never seen anything like that in a movie before. He was just lollipopped on the top of a pole.
Yeah.
He just it stops, and he's just impaled on it. It was weird. And then basically the end of this movie is Alex finally proposes, and I wrote the end ? Nope. Can I make the travel? I had a real problem with this line. Can I make the travel plans next time? Look, I know that's for us. That's a comedy line for us, the viewer. But how could you possibly know that the next time they go on if Alex plans the trip, they're going to end up in a heist psychotic break situation? I don't know if you guys had any emotions about that, because I have a feeling both of you were checked into this movie so hard that it doesn't matter. And then there's a post-credits during credits sequence where Annie goes back to driving school, and a bus speeds by, and she says, that bus is going too fast. Literally, that happens in this movie.
I saw that and I thought it was like a blooper reel, so I was like, I don't give a shit about the bloopers.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought it was going to be as well. And then I was like, nope. This is more information about this universe.
This movie is meant to. It seems like it's meant to take place like a year or so after the first movie.
Like right after, yeah.
So I just like I couldn't. The movie opened with her doing a driving test, and I couldn't get behind it. I couldn't believe that after having gone through that traumatic situation where she was driving a bus and like people were dying and stuff, that she's like, well, I better learn how to drive. I just like it
but
was
the
weird.
whole thing in the first Speed movie was that she didn't have her license, and she's like, "I don't have my license." You're like, you have to just point the bus in the way it needs to go.
Yeah, isn't there someone else on that bus that did have a license that could have done that? But anyway,
Probably
whatever.
everybody else.
Yeah,
fucking Gigantor.
Hey,
Ortiz.
The bus driver got shot, and everybody else was like, no. Like, I think most of them said no. Like, a lot of them said no.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, that's.
I mean, what do you want that guy in the back who's like, hey! And he comes up with his gun all of a sudden? That guy shot the bus driver.
That character as well. Guy? I do.
No, most of the people on that bus were old ladies.
Before
we don't know how to drive.
Before we get to the Home Alone of it all, we covered at length Speed 2. Was there anything else I think Speed 2 is done and gone. Is there anything about Speed 1 you guys wanted to talk about before we
the opening of Speed 1 is like the best movie.
It's really good.
It's so fucking good.
Really good.
It's a great 20-minute short. Like it's a lot of fun. It doesn't hang on anything stupid. It makes sense. It's Keanu's whole character where he like is I can't even like describe Keanu Reeves' character because he's so fucking crazy. Like he just has this, I'll shoot anybody to make sure we all win, even if it means I have to shoot my best friend kind of vibes.
Yeah, it was the opening was great. The Home Alone of it all for Speed 1.
Oh, should we do the Home Alone of it all?
Let's do it.
I didn't mean to.
Okay.
No, you're right. You're
you think the Home Alone is the Home Alone of it all? Can someone please tell me when the Home Alone? I really gotta know. When is the Home Alone of it all? What is the Home Alone of it all? Now that's the Home Alone of it all.
I love this, and it's like seasonal. It's great.
Exactly. It's perfect for the season. Just before you get to that, I just want to explain this. Home Alone of it all is the idea that in the movie Home Alone, when Kevin McAllister slaps down the blueprint and he's going to set up the traps, that's kind of what you're there to see. So we've migrated that to all film. Michael, you've been here before. You were ready. You're locked and loaded. So let's hear your.
Locked and loaded. Sorry to jump ahead there.
Nope,
I
love it.
I have a feeling that we all for Speed 1. The reason I brought it up is because I think we all have the same Home Alone of it all, and everyone in the world does. It's when the bus jumps over the gap, right? That's like the famous scene. That's the big thing. It's in all the trailers. It's like the big.
Mine's when the bus couldn't slow down, but I'm with you. On that.
You mean from the beginning of
basically
Act 2 until the end of. But yeah, I mean that was the moment for me. That was like, it's just the iconic moment of, and it was like. So stupid. Like there's that is not following any rules of physics, but I mean,
you even messaged me like we were kind of watching it sort of at the same time, and you were like, "Something's coming! Like it's gonna blow your mind, and you're gonna think it's so stupid." And then I watched. I was like, "Yeah, of course. That's the only part of this movie I remember." So yeah, I would agree with you in that context. Steve, do you want to give your Home Alone of it all for the original Speed, or are we going to let Michael just continue for his Home Alone of it all?
Well, I mean, I have to give mine for this movie, the one that he just gave it up for.
Okay, let's do Speed 1 and then we'll do Speed 2.
All right. My Speed 1 Home Alone is just after the shot. When it shoots the bus driver in the back and he's like, "Arr!" And then Keanu Reeves turns to everybody and is like,
Shut the fuck up! Everybody calm down! If we can't generate this bus's energy down below 50 miles per hour, then I don't know if that's accurate, but it's gonna blow up or whatever. Like that's when I like when everything on the bus goes wrong is my description of.
Okay. That's kind of what I was saying too. So Michael, you're home alone of it all though for Speed 2 Cruise Control, the movie we're all here to listen about and talk about.
I mean, for me, it's the boat going through that town. Yeah, just that's an easy choice for me on this one. Both were easy.
You're looking like Dennis Hopper when you go in the corner like that. You look like Dennis Hopper. Hold on, go back in the corner. Doesn't he look like god damn?
All they gave me was a cheap watch and a cocksuck or whatever.
Yeah. All right. Wow. Dennis Hopper over here.
How about you, Steve? What's your home alone of it all for Speed 2 Menace to Society with a 2?
It's almost 100% the point when he's like, and he opens his golf clubs and they're like, and they have like a little digital interface, and he starts to unscrew all the heads.
That was cool.
That's the best part, because I'm like, oh, this is a Speed movie, isn't it?
I guess that obviously evil guy they just showed us in the previous scene is actually evil.
He's the Speed villain, isn't he? Oh
Yeah.
god, he's Mr. Speed.
Mine's similar to that though, but mine is at the end of the movie when the movie actually has multiple vehicles all actually going fast. When that final stretch of the movie, when they're on a jet ski and a fucking speedboat and an airplane, that was my home alone of it all, because I was like, oh, things are fast now. It is a Speed. This is a Speed 2. That was my home alone of it all this week.
All right.
Should we play the final MPAA live rating game? This is the final one. This is it. The final one.
All right. Oh, wait, am I supposed to play something?
Yeah, you're gonna play da-na-na-na.
Oh, I forgot. Hold on. What's it called?
This is where we need an editor. Much like Speed 2, we could cut so much and we had an editor.
What's it called again? It's called
It's called
Yay Game.
Yeah.
It's time to play Guess the MPAA.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final edition of the MPAA rating game that isn't recorded, pre-recorded. The rules are, of course, complicated as usual. My name is Alex Traven. I think that's a combination of both names, but that doesn't matter because I'm going to turn it over to my co-host Steven to tell you the rules of the game.
Hello, my name is Stephen Peavin, and we're going to tell you how to play this game right frickin' now. What you need to do is you need to take all of what you've ever thought about in terms of...
Wait, hold on. What are we doing again, Jason? Oh yeah. The game is there's 5 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Confusing
But
immediately.
we only need to guess the last 3. And the last 3 are the ones that we need to guess. 1, 2, 3. That's it. But it could also be 0, 0, 0. It could be 9, 9, 9. There's 3 numbers we need to guess. And in between that is the other ones that Jason will tell us about later.
So it is a 5-digit number. You're just going to need to guess a 3-digit number between 0 and 999. The context here is that every single movie in the mainstream is given an MPAA rating number based on the rating of the movie. It means it's officially graded by the MPAA. None of that matters. All you have to do is guess a number between 000 and 999. The guest always goes first here on Hated to See This One. So, Michael, you've played this game before. I take notes now, so we're going to make sure that we get a true and clear victor on our final MPAA rating game. Michael, what is your first? I'm going to tell you, it doesn't matter. Fully does not matter, but the first two numbers are 3, 5. So you just need to give me the next 3 digits.
All right, 420, locking it in.
Okay, nice. 420. Steve, it is lower than that.
220.
Michael, it is higher than that.
Okay, well, it's obviously 308.
Steve, it is higher than that.
400.
Okay, so this is our. Usually, I would just do 2. We're gonna do a third round. Michael, it is lower than 400.
All right, well, I think we all know it's 369.
Nope, that's incorrect. Steve, for your final guess, it is higher than that, and below 400, and below 369.
What?
Wait, how is that both higher and lower than 369?
No, I said it's lower. It's lower.
That's not what you said.
It's lower than 400. It's lower than 369.
Wait, it's lower than 369?
It's lower than 369.
3, 2, 3.
So this is a unique situation because, of course, neither of you got it correct, but I will give you an opportunity to have one more guess. I will say that Steve's answer was comically close. But Michael, if you can guess without going over the box office draw for this movie, I'll give you an additional guess, and I'll tell you that it's between 100 million and 200 million.
121 million.
Okay, you get an additional guess, but we'll get to that in a second. How about you, Steve?
You said 121 million?
121. Yes, that is lower.
121 million. It's lower than that?
It's in the correct answer is higher than that. He got it lower, so he gets an additional guess.
121 million and 1.
Okay, so you both get an additional guess. Keeping in mind that Steve's final guess was 323. I'll tell you it's higher than that. I also gave a clue that I'm not going to reiterate. But Michael, what is your final guess?
324, locking it in.
We did it! We finally had a guest. Steven has gotten it right 3 or 4 times in the history of this. Steven has gotten it correct 4 times. Maybe more, maybe less. But finally a guest. We've been doing this for about 2 years now. Michael Mongiardi, you are we do play this game on the final episode, which I think Steven might have actually won. I can't remember. That's a pre-record, but you are the ultimate champion of the MPAA rating game, and you're going to go down in history as that. So I would like to.
Is that going to be like another $10,000?
Yeah, it is. I'm texting it to you right now.
Oh, great! Thank you.
$10,000. Just accept that, and we'll round that out with this.
The MPAA, everyone. The MPAA. Wow.
And for you fans of the MPAA rating game, because it was because we kept it around because Tim, the person that you were talking about earlier, who you were like, why is he so big in the picture? Well, we kept doing it for him. He's right there. He's right there in the middle. Every time that Tim comes back on the show, we will continue to do the game. However, from here on out, we're going to start developing a new game. But since that may or may not ever happen,
balls and beauties this year.
balls and beauty, with the balls and beauties of it all.
And rest in peace, Tim. Rest in power, King.
Rest in power. But that's it. We just have to get through our final thoughts now.
No, I want to stay all night.
Well,
It's time
we came in.
for final thoughts.
Considering we
What is that song?
did America's Funniest Home Videos, lock it in.
Yeah.
You didn't even make him guess, Jason. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Well, you asked a question and I answered it. It's very special that we went out like that for that game. I'm actually a little bit misty about it. But thank you for being here tonight, Michael. You're always a great guest. You entered the 4-time club tonight. When you're back in 2 weeks for our first episode of the year in January for The Thing with your lovely partner, Mariana, you're going to join the 5 times club and it's going to be great. So you're going to have a lot of accolades. You got a lot of accolades. You've been on, we've had 2 months based around you. Yeah, I would say that deserves an applause. You won the final MPAA rating game and you're about to join the 5 times club. But now give us your final thoughts on, I guess, the Speed franchise. Also, at the end, if you want to give it a rating, whether it be out of 5 or out of 10 or like a star rating or the amount of popcorn you ate during the movie, it's all up to you. The floor is yours.
Speed 1 was like a certified blast. I had so much fun. Can't recommend it more. It's fun. It's like an easy, light watch. It's just good. The Keanu Reeves, wonderful. Sandra Bullock, electric as always. That's a like 8.69 out of 10 for sure. Easy. Speed 2 Cruise Control was like a 3.69 out of 10.
Yeesh.
Wow.
I think it was like a really bland action movie. It seemed like it was just like, I don't know, it couldn't really find its footing, and it like wasn't just the lack of Keanu Reeves, but that definitely didn't help. Yeah, that's my opinion. It was like there was something, it was like kind of fun, I guess, at some parts, but for the most part, it just seemed kind of like trite and just like going through the motions. That's how I felt. So that's it.
All right. Well, that's pretty good. Pretty good. Give me what I want, you know? You know what they always say. You know what they always say, give me what I want. They always say it.
Give me what I want. Give me what I want.
Thank you, Michael Mongiardi, also known as Gigantor, referring to his dong. How about you, Steven?
Me, Steven?
Steven, your final thoughts for Speed and Speed 2 Cruise.
I have to say that when it comes down to Speed 2 and Speed 1, I prefer Speed 1. I don't know who doesn't prefer Speed 1. It's amazing. Speed 1 is amazing. Speed 2 is a movie that I don't really understand why it was made or who it was made for, but I do understand that they really wanted to make Speed 2, right? And I
mean,
wish
that's evidenced by the fact that they still made it without Keanu Reeves, and like
and
they wanted
somehow,
to make...
yeah, and it did okay. Like the money it made was all right, considering. But my whole idea is that it can't and shouldn't have existed without him. You know?
Yeah, I would back that up.
If Keanu Reeves was in this movie, it probably would have launched a whole franchise of movies that would have kept going. But because he wasn't in this movie, it turned out to be a Sandra Bullock franchise, which I'm not saying that Sandra Bullock cannot make a franchise, but I'm saying a Speed franchise, maybe not. Because
But she wasn't the hero. She wasn't like the badass. Like that's what I was saying before. Like it could be if they made her a little bit more of the hero, but they just made her the kind of helpless girl next to another LAPD officer.
Imagine the opening of this movie was her just being like, ding, 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 and it made you think that she was not doing what she was doing, and then it turned out that she was like a cop, like, ding, 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 and you're like, whoa! Like then you would have been like, holy fuck! Like
exactly, like in Terminator 2 when she had gone through all the shit from Terminator 1, and now she's like working out and she's like ready, to fight the machines if they come back.
Remember Speed 1? Well, now I'm Speed 2.
Judgment Day.
Judgment pussy. Anyway, yeah, I know what you mean, and it didn't work out that way, but I didn't hate Speed 2, but I did hate a lot of Speed 2. Like I didn't hate Speed 2 as a whole, but I did hate a bunch of it. But like when I first started watching it, I was like, wait a minute. I don't remember any of this movie, but I do remember the fact that there's a guy who maybe uses leeches in this movie. Is there a leech thing in this? And then he pulls out the leeches, and I'm like, yes, I remember the leeches.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about it.
That was the main thing that I remembered, and then after that, not much. I didn't remember anything after that. So when it comes down to thinking about what this movie could be and what it should be, no, I don't think I can give it a ranking. I think what I'll say about this movie is that it's a very 12-minute slow creep into a fucking harbor where nobody and everybody is also like, are we supposed to wait here until it hits us, or do we have to do a funny dance while it hits? This movie sucks.
That's accurate. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
Give me what I want. Give me what I want.
Listen, I'm going to do some housekeeping. The budget for this movie was between 110 and 160 mil. It made 164.5 at the box office. Not a certified banger, pretty much a failure by blockbuster standards. I think they could have built something out of this if Keanu had stayed. I agree with all of that. Here's a fun fact. The studio planned on a third Speed film, but the critical and commercial failure of Speed 2 shelved the idea. I think that doesn't take a rocket chat GPT to figure that one out. As far as my final thoughts goes, honestly, it was okay. I'll say it. I like the premise and its expansion on the Speed formula. I think both movies could have been shorter. Once they established the main plot in this film, the thing that couldn't slow down, they need to take it home a bit quicker, I think. Even if it's just 10 minutes off both of the movies, actually. The audience self-insert, who is Anna, and also the comic relief, is almost completely unnecessary, which is a little bit ironic considering she's sort of is one of the tent poles of the actual film. People really liked that Sandra Bullock, America's sweetheart. I think that she was the main draw during this era. And I think overall both movies have great parts, and this one could be at least as good as the first had Keanu come back. But I give it a 2.8 out of 5. And I also give this movie a threequel on a plane, Speed 3 landing gear. And just to that note, since we were talking about Speed 1, as my final thought for Speed 1, I gave it a solid 3 out of 5. And I think against this movie, it's more like a 3.5 because it's so good and easily watchable. I think Speed 1 does everything right that this movie, Speed 2 Cruise Control, does incorrectly. I don't even think wrong is the right word. I think incorrectly. I think setting up all these things to fall in the wrong way is incorrect. And I think that the three of us, if we had watched both of these movies together, we would have a great time with both, but I think we'd have a better time watching Speed 2, the three of us in one room. And
Well, let's do it then. Tomorrow.
all over again. You guys want to fucking pop over here and we'll watch Speed fucking 4, the respeedening.
No, what we should do
Electric
is we should write
Speedaloo.
Speed 3, like the proper
Right?
Speed 3. Yeah. Okay, Keanu Reeves has to be back. He has to
He's
be
got
back.
it. I won't do it without him. I'm putting my foot down.
So we'll call it Jack is back. Speed 3, Jack is back.
Yeah.
That's the name. Is that the title?
But even like Keanu Reeves is a little old for this now. He's like,
No,
Yeah.
Jason, don't even say
Bill
that.
and
Why would
Ted's.
you say that?
John Wick, he's like one of the biggest action stars right now.
imagine if he showed up in Speed 3 now, like they make a legacy sequel of Speed and he shows up and does like the gun moves from John Wick.
Okay,
That
well
would be a sick movie.
imagine it's this. It's like a side view on like a tropical beach, like those are birds making noises or whatever.
Yeah, that's the sound a bird makes, obviously.
And there's like people on the beach, and then it comes to Keanu Reeves and he's like and then it goes all the way up to him, and then you just hear like and he's like, oh, he grabs his phone, and then that's how the movie starts. It's him grabbing his phone, and it's like like he has to come back from the best beach vacation that
we
he's
need
ever
you back. Dun 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 dun.
had. No, you don't like that?
I like
No, I
it.
do. I think it's great. How far down is "Give Me What I Want" even? Is that at the bottom? Here's what I get. Because the villain of this.
What I want.
Thank you.
Give me what I want.
The villain of this movie was the Green Goblin and the Joker at the same time. But with that, we've reached the end of the show. Michael, before we get out of here, do you have anything you'd like to plug this week?
Oh my God, do I have anything I want like to plug? All right, strap in. This is going to be another hour. Just kidding. As always, obviously I run a little independent podcast network here in Toronto. So like check out the Sonar Network if you want, or just listen to and support independent podcasts like this one. What's it called? How did this get made? Whatever it's called. This podcast or anything on the Planetary Podcast Network.
Yep, close enough.
United Federation of Podcasts. Just support independent podcasters. There's so much great stuff out there, and check it out, of course. So also, I don't normally plug a specific show on the network, but I'm going to today because we have something coming out that we're very excited about in next year, in 2025. Probably, we don't have an exact release date right now. It's in production, but it'll probably come out around April or May. And it's a show called, we can finally talk about it. It's called Stanland. It stars Bobby Moynihan and Ray Seahorn from Better Call Saul and Steve Little from Eastbound and Down and John Hamm. Ever heard of him? The madman himself.
It's the biggest name ever mentioned on this show, I think.
Yeah, it's a narrative audio comedy, kind of a fantasy kind of story. It's like if someone discovered like a Narnia-like world and then accidentally introduced capitalism to it, and it turned it into just like a tourist trap wasteland. That's the kind of premise of the show. It's got the great cast. We're super proud of it. It's written by Mike Sachs, and it comes out next year. It's called Stanland. You can just follow us on at Stanland Series on Instagram for future updates. But that's where that is at right now. So that's my big plug. And I'll plug it again in January. Don't worry.
That's a pretty big plug.
That's a huge plug. The biggest plug we've ever had. Everybody's saying how big it is.
How big is huge?
Is huge. Bigly. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate every time you've come here. You're one of our favorite guests, of course. You're welcome back anytime. You're already booked for another episode. You're never welcome back, and you're actually fired from January's episode. I'm just kidding. Please come back. Please.
I'll be back on January 6th, my favorite day of the year.
Oh man, I didn't realize it fell on that date. That's fun. Talking to Trump. How about you, Steve? What do you got boiling up and cooking over on the old pot situation?
Well, I mean, I'm doing a lot, but should we play the plug?
I would
Play
say
the
play it.
plug.
Alright,
Yes.
Let me just plug this in.
Yeah.
Oh,
Here,
yeah.
man.
My apologies. I'm usually a stickler for plugs, but I fucking got right into it.
He
But,
died. That guy died in that.
yeah, he dies he comes back to life and dies every week. Steve?
Well, I do a bunch of stuff. I'm doing the Star Wars and the Game of Thrones theorist channel, which is pretty fun. It's me narrating, and I also do all the voices. I do a lot of voices, all right, over here. And then I also do the other stuff. I do the other stuff. I do the hold on, what are they called? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore, does it?
I think.
Are you okay, Steven? Do you need to talk? Are you
Yeah,
feeling
dude.
okay?
We're listening.
I'm
I would
still a
say.
little bit sick. I'm kind of like my brain is a little bit burnt out right now. I don't know if I can do it.
What is tell me and the audience about Star Wars theorists and the other thing that you said, Lord of the Rings theorists.
What about them? You want to hear about them? All right.
What is it? What
Well,
is it? I want to follow whatever it is and learn about it.
I had to swallow. It made me feel uncomfortable that I wasn't able to just do it right away. Yeah, wait, what do you mean? Just Star Wars theorist and Game of Thrones theorist. They're things that I do all the narration for. I do every single voice in them as well. They're good. They're nice.
They're YouTube channels?
Yes, they're YouTube channels. It's called Darth
yeah.
Theorist and the Three-Eyed Theorist, if you want to look them up.
I'm subscribing right now.
All right.
They're like what ifs. What if content.
They're like whiff
Oh, sorry.
content. Yeah. If you want to look them up. But they make me feel good. They make me feel good. They make me do stuff.
Okay. Steve hates being put on the spot to
I don't
promote
like
his stuff, but let me take over for you, buddy, because I love you and I love everything you do.
I can't look at you guys anymore. I'm looking at
Steve is a voice actor on many YouTube channels. The two biggest things you do are the Darth Theorist and the Three-Eyed Theorist, which, like I said, are kind of like, what if Jon Stark fucked Boba Fett? Nope, that's wrong. That's incorrect. Never mind.
I mean, we could make one like that though. That would be good.
Do you take fan suggestions?
Yeah, especially if it's people fucking each other. I mean, that's what I would like to keep doing.
But it's good content. I watch it. They're fun. The people in the United Federation of Podcasts also have picked up on it very well. So what I will say for my plugs this week, I will promote the United Federation of Podcasts. We have one brand new podcast with the name I can't remember, with Michael Chan. He's doing like a horror movie kind of hybrid thing. There is, of course, this show, which happens each and every week here on Twitch and YouTube. It's like I said, it's a roundtable discussion of a film where we just talk about the movie till it's been exhausted. Which is fantastic. I love doing it. Like I said, 8 p.m. Thursday, YouTube, Twitch. The next day it goes up on video on demand on YouTube and Twitch. You can find us on all audio platforms as well. I make audio episodes out of all of this. I think there's a wrestling podcast and a pop culture podcast coming down the pipe as well in the new year. So look out for those. We have merch. Steve has drawn all of this stuff. We have a Grimoire of Familiar Killers shirt you can get, Kill Aid, Twinkerbell, and I'm going to put up this for the Twinkerbell is a fan favorite. Look at Twinkerbell. Look
That's
at
fucking amazing.
Yeah. And then the Zardoz is the newest edition that I'm going to be putting up for the holiday. In addition to that, really the last thing I have to say is tomorrow night here in Toronto, I'm a wrestling announcer. Actually, I can show you guys this. This is something I want to plug. Tomorrow night, we have our final show of the year at Super Kicked. It's called Pumpin'. I don't name them. But I have merch. I made merch. It says, "Welcome back to the stage of history," which is my trademark thing that I say right before the main event.
Why did you capitalize every word?
Yeah.
I asked my dad to make it for me when I was stoned because I didn't know what to ask for Christmas.
I see.
It's on the back. This is even more confusing. It's a T-Rex. It's supposed to be a T-Rex, more like a Velociraptor. And my name, Jason R. Phillips. So these are going to be available tomorrow night. It's going to be a very limited run. There's only like 6 of them. I hope they either sell out or I give them away to my friends. First time I'm a wrestling fan from way back, and I'm glad to have wrestling merch. That's crazy to me. But aside all of that, we've done it. We've reached the end of the year as far as live episodes go. We have a brand new champion of the MPAA rating game right as it gets shelved and put into the rear view. We have lots of ideas for the new year here on Hey Did You See This One. Stay tuned for next week when we pre-recorded this about a month ago with B Dolly, and we talk about Cool as Ice. So we're gonna go kind of radio silent for the next week, and then when we return, this guest here is gonna show back up, Michael Mongiardi and his partner Mariana Miniotis. I think I've said that correctly.
Yep, I think so. As far as I know.
I don't know why your last name fucking boggles my mind so much. But I'll do the closing stuff as always. But Michael, there's just one question that needs to be asked each and every week here on the show. Could you please ask that question for us?
Hey, did you see this one?
I got a boat. I got a bus. They're gonna crash. They're gonna sus. Everybody looking at my boat. Everybody looking at my bus. Everybody looking at them crash. Everybody get on the hash. Everybody smoke hash.
All right, everyone, that's him. He's finally gone down for the night. But, what we need to ask everyone here is, hey, did you piss? Wait, hold on. Did you shit? No. Did you
Diarrhea?
Did you diarrhea this one?
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, Did You See This One? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mater Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.